Well, good afternoon, y'all. Like we mentioned yesterday, we were talking about potentially doing some live cut-ins if we have some of those stronger storms move a little bit ahead of schedule or just start to affect our Mother's Day plans throughout the afternoon hour. So wanted to hop on. We don't have any severe thunderstorm warnings as of yet, but wanting to hop on and talk about kind of some of those thunderstorms that are ongoing right now, especially for those out there in Carroll and Montgomery counties, especially pretty much right on top of Vaden right now. This is just kind of one of the strongest storms we've seen all day today. Again, still not strong enough to be or kind of meet that severe criteria, but strong enough that I wanted to go on, kind of give y'all an update, walk y'all through what all is going on out there. So let's just start off because we have a camera out there. Let's see if we can get a visual on that storm here, see if that can load. Take a look at kind of what's ongoing out there. So we'll have to see which direction this is facing, but those darker clouds a little bit off to the left of that camera. I'll have to see if I can get on a different tab off screen to see if I can rotate that for you guys. But 79 degrees out there in Winona, feels like 81. That southerly motion coming in around 8 miles per hour, kind of feeding in some of that moisture. So that storm just south of that camera that we can see out there in Winona, still that storm kind of out there in Vaden. But wanted to kind of get a visual on that, kind of just talk and walk you through the storm. You see another impressive storm out there towards the Duck Hill community as well. A little bit stronger storm kind of popping up out there kind of in the middle of nowhere, pretty much just along Highway 8, just south of Charleston and northeast of the Slater community as well. So that's been the strongest storm we can see. We can actually go through all our different threats. I wouldn't be surprised if this is kind of dumping some hail out there. It is trying to rotate just a little bit. You can kind of start to see some of that green and red start to mix a little bit, but this is also, the scans are coming in a little bit high up in the atmosphere, just that mesocyclone still rotating, so not really seeing anything on the ground. Again, that tornadic threat continues to be very unimpressive today, and thankfully we continue to see that trend as we continue into your afternoon hours. What I am kind of expecting out there is probably the potential for some of that hail to be falling and probably make its way down to the surface as well. So when it's safe and it kind of passes on through, if y'all have any pictures of that y'all want to submit, that way we kind of know what went through, how these storms are working, feel free to send those in. Of course, do not go out there right now trying to risk anything to send in those pictures. Don't need them that bad. Just wait for the hail to kind of move on out of your area, and then we can kind of get a good visual on that. But we can even populate that, kind of seeing that darker purple, just kind of showing the peak impact, which I'm kind of covering up, but those severe threats behind my head. So up to 1.5 inches in hail, not expecting it to be up that high, but 1 inch hail kind of in that lighter shade of purple. And we can clear this before I do it again on that lightest shade, 1/2 inch out there within the Vaden community. So would not be surprised if some hail is falling. All the green is kind of showing that heavy rain, which I know you guys are definitely hearing outside. But one thing that I also want to note with this, we can go back to reflectivity here. Just show y'all. I mean, y'all can see those brighter returns, and you can kind of see that spot right there. Definitely could be a hail core kind of moving on through just past the Vaden city out there. So I know y'all probably heard some of that hail moving on through the city and kind of moving on out kind of closer towards the sticks and affecting those communities out there. But one thing I want to notice, and I'm kind of covering it up right there, those total strikes up to 193, and that's just within this storm pretty much. I mean, you can also say maybe a few lightning strikes up there just northeast of North Carrollton, but within this storm, we're already up to 194, so very energetic. I know you are probably hearing all those rumbles of thunder out there, just those storms continue moving on through, and we were talking about a few of those pop-up showers, kind of almost like that summer convective type of just pop-up showers and storms. That's what we're experiencing right now. So a few of those could be on the stronger side. We could be dealing with some hail out there, but those strikes kind of ongoing right now, coming in around 193. So still wanted to give you all a good visual on that. Let's go back towards our threats again. Still showcasing hail and rain. Again, if we were talking about anything tornadic related, we'd start to see those red colors. That would show you that wind shear starting to pop up those rotation couplets, kind of showcasing that wind starting to rotate within that storm, trying to make its way to the ground. And we're not quite seeing that. This is still going to be kind of just a hail-related storm moving on through. We can definitely see that here with our peak threats. So still wanting to get a good visual on that, and we can still go back towards our velocity, and you can kind of start to see some of that red start to mix in with that green. But again, with how far away this is from our radar, I can kind of still give you a visual right there. So Vaden is the city we're talking about as that storm moves on through. Our radar site's all the way out here in Monroe County. So it's sitting that beam super high up. It goes at an angle, and it's kind of scanning closer towards the top of that storm. And these storms kind of rotate a little bit higher on up, and that's fine. We just rather see that rotation elevated and not making its way down to the ground. So it continues to be something that we want to continue monitoring very closely but still not too concerned about that at this moment. And thankfully, we aren't even seeing that severe thunderstorm warning either. So not quite meeting the criteria yet. Definitely one of the strongest ones we've seen so far. One thing I do want to notice is we were also looking at the debris behind the scenes, kind of showcasing this is what you typically would look at to see if a tornado has made it on the ground, but I think it's just the hail up there continues to kind of drop that CC just a little bit, just very reflective and changing of that orientation, allowing for that CC drop to occur. And of course, not very organized. You kind of see something very distinct, kind of typically just a blue circle. And we're not seeing that quite yet here. So again, that's our strongest storm right now. And we can kind of put this on a loop actually just to showcase kind of how the life of this thunderstorm has gone. I'll zoom out just a little bit so you can kind of see that move through the area. Maybe I'll shift that over for you guys. And then we can back this up just a little bit, kind of watch this storm move on through. I think it did get a special weather statement earlier, which is kind of what the National Weather Service will put out before a severe thunderstorm warning. It's kind of that criteria just ahead of it. So not quite meeting that severe thunderstorm warning criteria, but still kind of labeling it as a strong thunderstorm. Thankfully, we're still not seeing that get issued at this moment, but still wanted to come on out and showcase that to you guys. So this is around 254. One of the things that statement mentioned is this storm's only moving around 15 miles per hour. And that's one of the things I've noticed a lot watching these storms pop on up. They kind of pop up over your city and they kind of just linger there for a while. So dumping heavy amounts of rainfall, which could provide some of that risk for that localized flooding, especially for some flooding or flood prone areas. But take a look at this. This was starting or popping up. Actually, we can go all the way back. Let's just take a look. So there we go. 2 o'clock out here towards 7 Pines. Start to see maybe some of those light sprinkles start. But then as we continue into the 2 o'clock time frame, just notice how quickly it pops up by 2:30, continuing to slowly move northeast, very, very slowly, just creeping across, I believe, Carroll County. I'm super zoomed in, so I apologize if I got that wrong. But that continues to move on through, getting closer towards Winona. But this is now already 3:20, so over an hour. It's barely crossed that much. We can actually measure this if we want to get kind of really specific here. Kind of from, we were talking about it starting at 7 Pines over there towards just north of Wiltshire. So 13.5 miles over the course of an hour. So very slow moving storm. Of course, that's not exact, but still kind of around that 15 mile per hour mark. That continues to move on through, getting closer towards the Vaden community. We saw kind of those brighter purples starting to pop on up, keeping an eye on that closely, and it's just kind of continued to stay pretty elevated. So we could see that those brighter returns popping up again as it goes over Vaden, and we went live to make sure to keep you guys updated, seeing those darker returns, just showcasing that hail continues to be a factor, and that was one of the threats we talked about last night. Wind and hail are probably the most elevated threats. Again, not super high risk and up towards that level 5 category, but this could be something that we're going to continue to monitor and notice as we go about the afternoon hours. So that continues to move on through Vaden, and now we're current. So still seeing those brighter returns, just showcasing that. We can go to hail track just to see, definitely starting to see some of that hail kind of move through the Vaden community at this hour, and it looks like it's already kind of crossed the I-55 corridor. So probably just east of it now, kind of still moving through the city. If we go back to reflectivity to talk about that. Yeah, so definitely crossed I-55. For those west, not really quite seeing that anymore. But yeah, definitely just crossed I-55, continuing to move further along east, just north of Vaden. You can see kind of the brighter return there, almost just that just dark kind of black color showing those high DBCs, highly reflective. That hail is definitely probable within that storm. So I'm going to zoom on out just so we can continue talking about other storms ongoing. Thankfully, nothing warned just quite yet, but take a look at North Mississippi as a whole. Southern portions of the Delta and pretty much just the southern portions continue to get more heavy rainfall. That was another thing we were talking about, kind of that area to look for. And actually pulled this up on the SPC. I know you guys have been seeing this a lot lately, and that's closer to where that level 2 slight risk is in place. So most of us here in North Mississippi are, well, in a risk regardless, but most of us continue to be in that level 1. But the further south you go, especially towards the Delta, you start getting creeping into that level 2 risk. Just a little bit more confidence on some stronger storms affecting you guys. But you can see even these storms, we're going to keep the frame right here. See Greenwood's right on the edge. We're talking about I-55. Take a look at that cluster of lightning strikes. That's still happening in the level 1 risk. So even though you're not in that yellow, you're still not out of it completely. That's why you're still under that risk, and why we want to keep making sure you guys are informed as those storms, they're still not occurring within the highest confidence, but still something that we want to continue monitoring. Another storm I want to look at real quick out here in Grenada County. This one kind of started popping up as well. Again, this is kind of Best way I could describe this is almost like a summer day in the middle of July. We're just talking about those pop-up showers that kind of just form right on top of you guys and kind of just sit and linger for a little bit before moving on out. That's what we're dealing with currently. So thankfully, nothing too severe. As you noticed, we're not talking about any severe thunderstorm warnings at this moment, but still wanted to go live just to give you guys the latest look at everything. So that's precipitation as it creeps into Grenada. We can actually get the latest track on this. Let's see which direction it's slowly moving. There we go. So it continues to move pretty much just due east. See, oh, well, there we go. We have our first severe thunderstorm warning with that storm we were talking about. So had that statement earlier showcasing it's kind of close to meeting that criteria, and it looks like we're getting that right now. So severe thunderstorm warning for Choctaw up until 5:15, which is not surprising at all. That's over an hour away, but just with how slow these storms continue to move, not surprising because it'll take a while to get to you guys out there. So still affecting you guys in the Vaden community for Carroll and Montgomery County, and even starting to creep into Tala as well. So that's going to start creeping in across the county line as well, giving you those just kind of stronger showers, heavy downpours, definitely rumbles of thunder with how energetic that storm continues to be, and probably dumping some hail as well. Let's go back towards our cameras now that that is warned, see if we can get another visual on this. Let's use our Ackerman one. Let's see if it's pointed the right way. There we go. I think, let's see, and I don't have my cardinal directions on here. Some of our cameras tell you which degree it's looking at, but if I had to guess, clearly we can see kind of those darker returns. There we go. Looks like the North Mississippi storm chasers are already on it behind the scenes. Starting to rotate that a little bit, giving us a visual on that storm. Darker clouds and just kind of a horizon off there in the distance, showcasing that heavy rainfall getting closer and closer to you guys within Ackerman and the Choctaw County community. Let's go back towards our Winona camera. I know you guys are just north of that, still seeing those darker clouds just a little bit past, especially further on to the left, which let me clear this because I know that's kind of covering up the visual that we're trying to get. There we go. Let's go back. And there we go. Let's see if we can get this now. Oh, and it's still popping up. Well, let's just move this over here for you guys. Actually, I can move it off screen. There we go. Ignore that white line. That's still thunderstorm warning. I just couldn't clear it for you guys, but at least it's more visually appearing or pleasing than that whole entire box. Darker skies just to the left of this camera with the storms not over Winona just yet, but pretty much just north or south of it. And then we have another camera down here in Atala County. I think this should be our Kosciuszko one, but this one I think points more towards the church. Yep, exactly. Okay, so not going to get a good visual with this camera. But let's go back towards our radar to talk about this storm that is now severe thunderstorm warned and met that criteria. If I had to guess, probably wind, which let me look behind the scenes because this app will tell me, because I think this one's just telling me kind of what counties. Okay, so yeah, up to 1 inch hail, wind reading or coming in around 60 miles per hour. So definitely meeting the criteria for both wind and hail. That continues to be the two biggest threats we're talking about. We're not talking about tornado threat with this cell right here. So the reason we have the severe thunderstorm warning is because of that hail, because of that wind continue to blow on through these communities. So still not quite talking about that tornadic threat as of yet, and hopefully we'll need to keep it that way for us much of the evening ahead. So let's take a look at that wind. Again, not seeing too much or anything impressive here. Let's look at storm relative. This is the one I kind of prefer. And again, we're still seeing that couplet right there, kind of that green and red getting close to each other, just with it being a stronger cell. We're talking about some of that rotation a little bit more aloft with those updrafts and downdrafts, but not quite seeing that closer towards the surface, which is definitely a good thing. Going back towards our threats, even this, I want to continue mentioning this. We're still talking about those green and purple colors. We're not seeing anything red related, which is a good thing, because once we start talking about red, we're starting to talk about that wind shear, that rotation a little bit further or closer towards the surface and a little bit aloft as well. It's not quite picking up on that just yet. So still very confident on that heavy rainfall continuing to dump over Vaden and that hail as well. Good news, even with that latest scan, you can see it was darkest pretty much right over the city of Vaden, and we're getting closer towards those lighter pinks or kind of purples. So still kind of hopefully seeing that hail core kind of dwindle on down. We can even go back towards precipitation, see if those colors are becoming a little bit less bright. So still seeing those purples, but if we go back just a few scans, yeah, I mean, take a look at that. We're going from kind of those darker, almost black color, just those showcasing those brighter returns. Even that was at 403. And then if we go to our latest scan, now that it became warned, we're not quite talking about that. So that hail core continues to be not as impressive as it originally was when this storm became warned. So definitely a good sign as this thunderstorm continues moving on through, which if it was moving at 15 miles per hour, let's put a track on that, especially with how tiny it is. Oh, there we go. Of course, those brighter returns are showing up yet again. So let's take, I'm gonna have to switch this. Do it this way. Actually, that is on the lowest one. We just don't really have many cities that it's affecting out there. That's fair. That's Mississippi for you guys. Well, for those, we can actually zoom in and I can just give you that personal look. So we're talking about for those out there in Poplar Springs, that cell's just a little bit east or west of you guys, excuse me, heading towards Poplar Creek as well. And it's pretty much kind of tracking along the county line for Atala County, getting closer towards those out in Choctaw County as well. Let me pull this up. There we go. Okay, and getting closer towards Montgomery County as well. So wanting to take a look at this as it continues moving on through. So not really kind of on track towards any cities, especially with how slow it's moving. I can't give you a storm track on that. But for any of you guys kind of out here in between all those cities, for Poplar Springs, Huntsville, French Camp, Shady Grove, Carmack, that cell is going to continue kind of inching its way closer to you guys. Again, not very fast. It's very slow moving. It's going to dump heavy amounts of rainfall. You're going to hear that constant rumble of thunder with all those lightning strikes as well. So make sure you're kind of inside. Stay inside for a while. This isn't kind of one of those where you can get inside for maybe 20 minutes, it blows on over. Still just kind of taking its sweet time moving on through. So want to give a visual on that. We've been zoomed in on this one for a while. Let's just make sure nothing else is warned within our region. That's definitely still a good sign. You can definitely tell where those storms are a little bit more prominent. We had a few of those pop up towards Memphis, towards DeSoto County earlier. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, perfect. So yeah, had a few storms pop up a little bit further north up there, just outside of the Memphis region. Not as long-lived. Those kind of just pop up and dissipate for those out there in DeSoto County. And there was even one out there towards Oxford. But for those storms that continue to kind of impress and stick around for a while, continues to be the southern portions of the Delta. We just covered that severe thunderstorm warning. I'm going to keep my eye on that. Let's go back up toward this one, continuing to inch closer towards Grenada. This is one that is starting to get some of those brighter colors as well. Let's take a look at those threats. We can start to see some of those light purple starting to pop up, just showcasing some hail is possible with this. We even put that Doppler on it. I think it's going to be half an inch. There we go. Half an inch of hail. Again, not as impressive as the one just further on south, which we can see why. It's definitely warned as compared to this one. So not quite talking about that. We'll go on a hail track, not seeing that here. And as compared to the one that we were just talking about, it'll be very evident if we're seeing that here. So definitely monitoring that. Let's take a look at the comments to see what you guys are asking. Looks like, when will they get to Starkville? It'll be a little bit. That was one of the things we were timing out earlier on today and a lot last night. These storms kind of continue almost just popping on up. That summertime convection can't really it's kind of the boiling water on a stove. They just kind of start popping up randomly, and it'll be a little bit longer until we kind of see that cold front start sweeping on through. Golden Triangle region had that rain and kind of those storms moving in later on, closer towards dinner time, so around 5, 6, to 7 o'clock, and kind of sticking around into the evening hours. So for those out there in the Golden Triangle region, you are still staying dry, but it's just a little bit to the west of you guys, kind of following along 82, getting closer towards I-55. So not quite making it to you guys yet, but y'all will start to see some of that rainfall later on this evening. Let's take a look at what else. I'm gonna have to look at the small font. Looks like y'all are just kind of saying where y'all are watching from. How do you think that will impact Franklin County? Franklin County, yeah, that was another one we were talking about last night and earlier today with Matt. We will start to see kind of these storms if those models end up verifying. That continues to be the biggest question on which one will do the best. We saw these storms kind of continue shifting on all the way through North Mississippi, eventually crossing the state line into a few of those Alabama counties that we cover, especially for those out there in Franklin and for those cities like Gordo, Reform, and kind of into Lamar County. And y'all were kind of along the same time frame with Golden Triangle region. Y'all just get these storms a lot later. So it'll be kind of later on tonight, kind of post-dinner time, into the later evening hours and kind of sticking around throughout the overnight period. Good news is last night we were talking about somewhat of an overnight threat with some stronger storms. That trend continues to downtrend throughout the overnight period last night and what we woke up to today. So thankfully continuing to see that. So hopefully we can get these storms kind of just out of here. Of course, they're moving very slow. The good news is we're not seeing much activity as of right now, which is good because the later we see them means they have kind of that less energy, that less sunshine, fuel to act on. So definitely a good thing so far. So going back to this severe thunderstorm warning, again, for those in Natala County out there towards Montgomery and even into Choctaw, this warning is all the way up until 5:15 just because of how slow the storm continues to move on through. So we're still kind of tracking that as it continues going on through the area, which I think it was the camera. I think I got on the Ackerman one that they moved behind the scenes. So let's see if we can get a latest visual as that one gets closer. Yep, still seeing those darker skies off there in the distance for you guys out there in Ackerman. Again, not seeing lightning strikes with it, so some heavy rainfall kind of probably prohibiting seeing some of that lightning, and still just a little bit too far away, maybe not quite as energetic to see that, but not seeing any of that lightning super far off in the distance. You can even see for those out there in Ackerman getting some of those smaller showers just south of y'all city right now. Again, nothing intense. That's the edge of that warning that is extended into Choctaw County. So still got a ways to go until that cell that we keep talking about makes its way to you guys, especially because that warning is pretty much active until 5:15. So almost an hour until it potentially makes it towards the end of that warning and kind of this yellow box that you see here. So very slow moving storms, that continues to be the story. And one thing I want to kind of keep emphasizing as well, we're still seeing those brighter returns, but hey, every time I say something, it wants to do the opposite, and this time in a good way. So not seeing that brighter return with that latest scan. So hoping that hail core can continue to dwindle. Every time I say that, it continues to try to build back up just a little bit. But hail, I mean, I'm positive continues to be the biggest threat with this cell as it moves on through. We can go back towards our winds. Again, it's still trying, rotating just a little bit kind of further on aloft. This isn't an accurate reading towards the surface. So still kind of seeing some of that couplet, just a little bit of it trying to rotate. But again, nothing impressive. This continues to be very hail related. We can see that with our peak threats again as well. Those large hail, a darker purple still continuing to pop on up. But notice you can see kind of where it reached its peak just east of Vaden. Kind of those darker purples. We can zoom in and give you guys a good visual on that, kind of where it just dumped some of that hail as it crossed I-55 and just past east of Vaden. So thankfully not directly on top of you guys, but pretty much just east of y'all's community. And notice it's kind of dwindling just a little bit. So of course we're still getting latest scans. Those are going to continue to move on through, but hopefully we can see that trend continue. So we can get that hail to stop, that wind to die on down. Not quite going to meet that severe criteria, but still probably one of the strongest storms we're dealing with right now. Let's go back to that hail track. Like I was mentioning, still very evident on how we can see that threat as it continues kind of pushing on through across I-55, across Vaden. And I mean, there's not many cities to talk about right now just because of how slow it is. I know I keep mentioning Vaden, and unfortunately with where it's at, there's not many other cities kind of around it, which is technically a good thing because we're not talking about your city. That's an excellent thing because that means there is nothing going on for you guys. So that continues slowly making its way east, getting closer towards Poplar Creek and Carmack, and pretty much just going right in between you guys. So hopefully continuing that path. But for any of you guys that live out here within these communities and just outside of the city, that you're definitely hearing those rumbles of thunder as it continues moving on through. And this debris, it's just, I think it continues to be very contaminated with that hail. Hail is very reflective, helping those higher kind of brighter colors start to pop on up. And I think we're starting to see that here with our correlation or kind of the possible debris. I think that continues to be very elevated. And notice, none of this is really matching on up. You want this stuff to kind of overlap if we're talking about something super significant. So you can see those darker returns just over Beatty. Let's take a look at our storm relative. Nowhere near that. We're talking about further up here. So still, those rotating winds, nowhere close to where that debris was picking up, or basically hail. And then let's go back towards that debris again, just so we can continue talking about that. Still just north of those out there in Beatty, and then we can talk about those threats, still kind of that hail. So almost lining up a lot better with that hail threat as it continues moving on through. I'm still not impressed by anything tornadic occurring with that cell. So I know that's one of our major concerns here in Mississippi. A lot of us continue to get very worried about the tornado threat. We're not dealing with that here with this storm. So let's go back to reflectivity, see what those brighter colors are looking like. We're still kind of unfortunately dealing with that. Let's back it up just a little bit to see how that's progressed. Yeah, okay. So we were talking about this when we went live, just showcasing it to you guys because it was strong. And then good thing we did, because shortly after we started to see that get warned. There we go. That was around just after 4 o'clock. You can see those brighter returns, but then it kind of disappears a little bit, making you, or fooling us and make us think that it's starting to weaken just a little bit. That updraft continues helping that storm keep its energy and sustain it for a little bit, bringing that hail with it as well. So this storm kind of continues moving on through. Actually, take a look at this. This is another thing I like doing. Take a look at those well, you can't really take a look at those lightning strikes if my big head is covering it. This is around 187 total strikes by 3:54. This is about the time we started our live stream, just giving you all that update. So just shy of the 200 mark, not quite meeting that severe thunderstorm warning criteria. But let's go to current. So we started just shy of 200. Now we're up to 213. So one of the things you can do with lightning strikes, that kind of helps you determine the health of thunderstorms. So when you see those lightning strikes continue to increase, it's very mature. It's still kind of intensifying, making its way through whatever kind of counties or cities it's moving through, which for us here, it's into Vaden and kind of moved through Vaden, thankfully now out of the city, but closer towards Carroll, Montgomery, getting towards Ackerman, the Choctaw community out there. But with those those lightning strikes continuing to increase, just showcasing that thunderstorms not really in the decaying process just yet. So it's going to continue moving on through, again, very slowly. When we started this live, it's been, I think it's already been maybe 30 minutes. It was just over Vaden, maybe just a little bit, pretty much along I-55, and that's the distance it's traveled. So these are very slow moving cells kind of moving on through, providing lots of heavy rainfall, but those strikes continue to be a little bit above 200. Thankfully, since I started talking about it, we've gone down to. So definitely a good sign. Hoping to see that trend continue into the evening hours. Okay, I noticed somebody just, pea-sized hail in Duck Hill. Okay, yep, so definitely experiencing some of that hail. But somebody just commented about Louisville. That's a good question because I saw a little bit of those showers starting to affect you guys. Now let's take a look at that. We were just covering that severe thunderstorm warning. We'll come back to it, of course, to keep you guys informed. I pressed the wrong button. There we go. Let's take a look at Louisville. That kind of keeps almost both in frame for you guys. There we go. Starting to see kind of some of those heavier showers just southwest of your city out there and kind of within Winston County. Let's take a look at kind of the trend because like I mentioned, these cells, they kind of just pop on up. So nothing was going on around 330, 340, but those light showers and sprinkles, then it probably just came a downpour for anybody outside closer towards that 4 o'clock time frame. That severe thunderstorm warning not quite issued just yet until post 4 o'clock. And this shower continues to kind of build on up, getting closer towards you guys in Louisville. And you're starting to see some of those white streaks pop up. That's showcasing those lightning strikes as well. So kind of still gaining some strength as it gets closer towards you guys in Louisville. Looks to me that it's not quite making it's a beeline towards the city, kind of more of that just northeastern track. So it looks like it'll stay just south. But of course, these cells can kind of start to shift directions. And that's one thing we really want to pay attention to, which way it travels and if one starts to move a different direction. So for those out there in Louisville, you're staying dry for now, but I know you're probably hearing some rumbles of thunder, and that severe thunderstorm warning continues to move in the direction towards you guys. But like we keep mentioning, very, very slow moving storms, not quite gonna reach you guys anytime soon, but something that we want to continue monitoring. So wind threat, yes, we can go back towards those threats here. Let's go back. Well, wind shear continues to not be a threat. That's as far as that rotation. Wind continues to be one. Let's go to our SBC graphic. We'll show you your day one wind. And this is one thing I want to highlight too. This is a great fact that Matt pointed out earlier. Most of us are in that level 1 risk, especially with that wind. Level 2 continues to be more elevated out there towards the southern portions of the Delta. We're starting to see some of that continue to play effect with that 60-mile-per-hour wind, just continue to move on through with that severe thunderstorm warning. But when we want to start talking about destructive or significant wind, take a look at your risk. It's non-existent. So we're not really talking about anything super elevated, super high end with this severe weather system continuing to move on through North Mississippi. We'll still see anything is significant to us here in North Mississippi, especially if it knocks down a power line, causes some power outages. But when we're talking about up to like 75 miles per hour or higher, you can see that scale here with those darker blues up towards that kind of lighter teal color. We're not talking about that here in North Mississippi. So wind, it continues to be a threat here for us here in the northern half of the Magnolia State. But as far as significant or destructive wind, not quite the case. And even with our damaging wind risk, we're only in that level 1, potentially level 2 for a few of us here in North Mississippi. I'll shift that over so you guys can kind of see our entire viewing area. But on the grand scheme of threats, we're not even reaching that level 3, 4, or 5. So definitely, thankfully, on the lower end. We can even talk about that with our hail as well. Take a look at hail. Pulling that off, we're actually completely all in the level 1 risk. So that continues to be the story, which is why wind and hail were the story that we kind of keep wanted to emphasize with those threats throughout the start of the weekend and now. And even if we want to go towards significant hail, still not playing a factor. So we're not talking about anything like that. And if you also want to talk about your tornado threat, non-existent as well. So that's not even significant tornadoes, kind of those stronger, maybe EF2s, just longer track tornadoes. That continues to not play a role, and even just your normal kind of tornado outlook, non-existent here in North Mississippi. So let's come back to precipitation. I'll keep checking in on the comments to make sure everybody is doing good. Y'all seem to having a great evening so far. Please make the screen bigger. Let me see. Make sure your screen is full screen. I know sometimes it keeps it just at vertical. If you have that screen lock on your phone, it won't let you take it full screen. So make sure you can do that, or you can press the button on the bottom right to hopefully make that full screen. But I'll make sure I'll continue monitoring this. That way I'm not covering up for anything for you guys. Let's zoom back in on these storms ongoing here in North Mississippi. Thankfully, we're only talking about one severe thunderstorm, as that warning continues to stay in effect for those. Well, it was for those out there in Carroll, but that pretty much already moved on out. So you guys are good, just kind of dealing with some of those lingering showers. Oop, there we go. I'm doing it again, kind of covering up some of that for you guys. That thunderstorm kind of already moved on out for you guys. So y'all are still technically in that warning. Wouldn't be surprised to see them kind of shave that off. Just still seeing some of those lighter, heavier showers a little bit behind it, but that intense kind of dumping of rain and even some hail, that's already moved on through. The severe thunderstorm warning is still in place for those in Montgomery, as it's pretty much right on top of you guys on the most southern portion of y'all's county. For those out there in Atala, especially pretty much just along the county line, just north, and even inching closer and closer towards Choctaw as well. So I know some people were asking about Ackerman. Y'all were staying dry. Seems like y'all are getting a little bit of shower out there, just some activity a little bit in advance. But actually, now that I'm talking about this, we're not seeing those bright returns at all anymore. So this continues to not be impressive compared to where it was. Let's take a look at our peak threats again. Good. Okay. So it looks like we're still just talking about some heavy rainfall. I mean, this is where we were. We're talking about those darker purples right there, just east of the Vaden community. If we go back to current, we're almost exclusively all to light and talking about a smaller area and basically just heavy rain. And again, one thing I want to point out, we're not talking about, there we go, they just shaved that severe thunderstorm warning. So for you guys out there in Vaden, y'all are good to go. Still lingering showers coming behind it, but that heavy thunderstorm, that severe thunderstorm that moved on through, it's already out of y'all's community and continuing to push further and further east. So taking a look at this, we're still kind of talking about those peak threats, but one thing that I was talking about before that warning kind of threw me off, we're still not talking about that wind shear. Tornadic threats and just the threat for tornadoes continues to be very minimal today. There's a non-zero chance. It's still on the table. But when we're talking about severe weather threats, wind and hail continue to be more elevated compared to tornadoes. I know that's one thing I want to keep emphasizing for you guys out there. Not seeing any of that red start to pop up with our peak impacts occurring. And that's almost kind of our worst case scenario. So we're not even talking about that 1.5 inch hail out there that moved through Vaden. I'd be very surprised if it made it that far down. But again, I know that thunderstorm kind of already moved on through y'all's area. So if y'all got pictures of any hail, make sure to submit that. We can kind of get that report in so we know what this storm and this cell is actually dropping out there for you guys. Let's go back to that debris, because I know that was one thing we were talking about earlier and kind of just that little pop-up. I can zoom back for those that were just now joining. This is one of the things we were talking about, and this is a thing you really want to look for during kind of tornadoes, seeing some of that debris start to kind of get aloft with tornadoes. And thankfully, we're not talking about that. That was just kind of contaminated because of the hail. And if we go to current, we can't even look at anything here. So definitely some good signs. That hail track pretty much almost stopped out there towards Carroll County and not really affecting you guys in Montgomery or Atala and into Choctaw yet. So definitely a good sign. This storm continues to be a lot less impressive as it continues moving further and further east. So definitely a good sign, kind of hoping that it kind of starts that downward trend, which we can go back to those lightning strikes now. Actually, let's zoom out at the grand scheme of things. Okay, we're up to 220. That's factoring in the storm just south west of Louisville, almost just completely south. I know you guys were asking about that earlier. Let's zoom in exclusively on this storm that we were talking about with that severe thunderstorm warning. we're up to or down to 170 strikes. So I could definitely say that this storm is probably starting its decaying phase. Hopefully it doesn't really act up on any more energy. Sorry, I'm covering it up. We're up to around 177 strikes out there within that thunderstorm. So hoping to see that number continue to dwindle. If we see those strikes start to uptick a little bit, it's still rejuvenating, trying to kind of feed off of any energy within the atmosphere still within that region. But the good news is we're still not talking about those 200 plus strikes that we were talking about a few minutes ago. So not an impressive storm. It was impressive just a little bit ago, and that's what prompted this severe thunderstorm warning. But at this moment around the 4:29, 4:30 time frame continues to kind of start decaying. So let's go off of that cell, start talking about some other ones. Let's go back to the Louisville one because I know you guys were talking about that in the comments. Again, seeing that pea-sized hail in Duck Hill, which let's go. That was commented a few minutes ago. Let's see what's kind of moved on through y'all's region here in Duck Hill. We can zoom in just a little bit more, and then we'll go back towards that Louisville storm. Since thankfully that one's not warned, so we got time to cover everything. Yeah, you can start to see some of those brighter returns. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe a few found its way down. But again, with how rainy it is too, they start to melt, thankfully, due to just how much heavy rainfall is occurring out there. So not quite a favorable environment for hail for you guys up there in Duck Hill, which is probably exactly why it only came down as pea-sized, if that, and we're already seeing some less impressive returns there with that. So yeah, no, I could definitely see maybe some pea-sized hail occurring out there for you guys. Okay, we were just covering that severe thunderstorm warning. Again, continues to not be as impressive. Let's go down here towards Louisville because we're starting to see some of those brighter returns for you guys just west of Liberty and pretty much just south of Highway 25. So let's take a look at that. Let's make sure this is in kind of a good frame. I'll zoom this back up here, which I know it's kind of offsetting, but that's because I want to look back to see how this one has trended. Yeah, definitely on the uptick. It's definitely strengthening kind of over Vowel by 4 o'clock. That was kind of when we started. You started to see that severe thunderstorm warning get in place. Continues moving on closer towards Liberty, and we're seeing some of those brighter returns. So typically when you start seeing those purple pinks, that's showcasing very, very heavy rainfall, but also the potential for some hail as well. So let's take a look at our, well, actually, let's look at wind first. Make sure nothing's trying to kind of rotate up there. Again, not too overall impressive. You want to see those a lot closer towards each other. So that's still kind of just some more kind of inflow, outflow going on out there, not too close together. So tornadic threat continues to be very limited. There we go. Yeah, so potentially seeing maybe a little bit of hail there along Highway 25 for those out there just east of Vowel, just west of Liberty, as that cell continues making its way closer towards you guys, and still not talking about debris as well. Any of that getting picked up will most likely just be some hail contamination. So thankfully, that continues to be all we can talk about. Even showing that hail track, which we saw on that severe thunderstorm warning, this is kind of what it's supposed to look like if we're dealing with some kind of intense hail moving on through. And going back here, yeah, you can't even find where we were talking about not seeing that. So not too overall impressive. I'd be surprised if that hail's making its way down. If it does, it's probably coming down as that pea-sized hail that that person commented for those out there in Duck Hill. So definitely a good sign with that cell. I know some of you guys were asking about the Louisville community. So definitely seeing some of those showers get closer towards you guys. But I don't think we're talking about anything impressive. Nowhere near like that severe thunderstorm warning as well. Let's go back up further. Well, actually, we haven't really covered anything up super north, kind of closer towards DeSoto County, just south of the Memphis region. We'll come back to all those showers, but we've been talking about them for a little bit. For those out there in Commerce, Banks, Cub Lake, y'all are starting to get some of those heavier showers. That's about it. Let's put on our threats to see if we can talk about hail. Looks like we're not. Definitely a good sign. Not going to spend too much time up here just because there's nothing intense. And just across the state line towards Memphis, y'all dealing with some of those showers as well. But again, just some of those brighter, kind of just darker reds popping up, just showcasing some heavy rainfall. So that continues to be it. The further north you go, all our attention continues to stay further down south, southern portions of the Delta. That was going to be the area I was going to continue to keep a close eye on today. And so far, it's continuing to verify with those kind of just heavier showers moving on through. Grenada County continues to be kind of a little stronger cell moving through and getting closer towards I-55. Let's zoom out just a little bit. I'll shift this over. Again, looks off center, but I just want to see how this storm has trended within the past little bit. So saw those brighter returns over Oxbury. Oh, there we go. Even just north of Hatton. So probably try to dump a little bit of hail out there, just some heavy rainfall. So that's around 3:40. So we're getting almost closer towards the hour mark, and it's only made it towards Holcomb. Yeah, go closer towards Bow Springs. So definitely slow moving storms. I mean, you can think about taking that drive and going between Minter City and Holcomb. It's not going to take you an hour. So just very slow moving cells continue to be a story. Looks like another kind of brighter return out here towards Cleveland. That was one I was watching earlier today. It was still not impressive. I think this was around 2:30. I was just kind of watching the camera, just heavy rainfall. Weren't even talking about lightning strikes. And I mean, there's only 8 within that. So not too much going on out there. Let's go back to our severe thunderstorm warning and towards the Winston County, because those continue to be the most impressive ones. And even that continues to be a little bit of a long shot now because they continue to downtrend, which is the good thing. And I say downtrend for those kind of just joining. Meteorologist Caleb Edelblut covering some of those showers and storms. We've been letting you guys know will start to affect some Mother's Day plans, unfortunately affecting a few of us a little bit earlier as compared to the rest. But thankfully, after these kind of stronger storms move on out, you're going to be good to go. Just still kind of talking about some lingering moisture into the overnight period. So let's take a look back at the severe thunderstorm warning. I'm going to shift this over just so you guys can kind of see what we've been talking about lately. This was a stronger storm just a little bit ago, just dropping kind of that constant hail. You can see those darker returns popping on up, but kind of embedded within that pink. Let me show you kind of what I'm talking about here. This is kind of what you look for some hail. So definitely kind of right over Vaden and that community as it moved on through. We can even shift this over a little bit more. You can start to see that become very evident. But if we were to zoom back out and talk about where we are now, nowhere near that. We're not even talking about those brighter returns. We're getting up towards the pinks and the purples, just showcasing some heavy rainfall and maybe some pea-sized hail if we want to go back towards our threats, which I'm actually kind of surprised it is that elevated. I just don't think it's making it. I think that's picking up from stuff earlier. Let's go back to our precipitation. Yeah, it's already shifting a little bit more further east. I think that was earlier. I'd be very surprised if that's ongoing right now just based off how reflectivity looks. But still, hail continues to be the biggest threat with this severe thunderstorm. Kind of moving on through, we're not talking about anything tornadic related with this. We are talking about some wind gusts, as I think this morning came in around 60 miles per hour. So very windy, probably very rumbly as well. But one thing I want to notice, we talked about those lightning strikes earlier. We're down to 155. So this storm continues to dwindle. I don't really want to talk about it while it's on the peak threats because you guys are probably more familiar to seeing something like this. There you go with some of those brighter returns. So it is probably still trying to kick out just a little bit of hail. But those lightning strikes continue to not impress as much. We were up towards above 200 strikes earlier with this cell moving on through. So now we've gone down over 50 and getting closer towards that 100 mark instead of that 200. At least once we cross kind of the decrease by 4, we'll be a lot closer towards 100. But by the time I've been talking about it, we've already gone down 3. I started around 155. We're down to 152. So not quite seeing as energetic of that storm. Continue moving on through. Oh, nice view on Cleveland. Thank you, James. Let's take a look at that. Hopefully I didn't miss that too long. Let me see. Here, wait. Let me zoom out. I don't want to click the wrong one. Because I was watching that Cleveland camera a lot earlier. Should be this one, if I remember right. I'm still learning all my Delta counties and cities. There we go. Awesome. Thank you, James, for commenting. Oh, I clicked the button. Let me go back. So sorry, guys. Let's take a look at that Cleveland camera, showcasing that heavy rainfall ongoing. You can kind of see those rain bands. Notice where it's a little bit clearer, not quite talking about that rain. Farther east you travel, we're kind of further to the right. We don't really know cardinal directions on this one. You can start to see that rain continue to drop, become a lot heavier further towards the right of the screen we go. So just showcasing that rain continue to dump down. I want to see, we're probably not going to be talking about lightning strikes with this storm. I didn't really see any over Cleveland. You can kind of see that small little blip we're talking about, and I'll even stand on this side just in case those darker skies can yield a flash of lightning, but not too energetic of a storm out there. Temperatures around 81 degrees. You can see above my head feels like 82, and that dew point around 66. And that was another thing Matt was talking about earlier today. If our dew points were in the low 70s, mid 70s, then this would be a completely different situation. That confidence would be a lot higher with the potential for these severe storms. We're only in the mid 60s, and that's not too bad. It still provides some fuel. We're still kind of moist and kind of muggy out there, and we can see that clearly here with the Cleveland Skycam. Big thanks to North Mississippi Storm Chasers for continuing to provide those cameras and put up more for us out there across North Mississippi. Gives us an excellent visual. But with our dew points only in the mid-60s today, kind of limits that severe weather risk, and that thankfully continues to be the trend. And most models, I was even talking with Matt behind the scenes, they just continue to downtrend as well. So everything we saw last night at 6, still not quite reaching that criteria either. So definitely a good sign. Yeah, this is the Cleveland show. Yeah, no, that's very fair. I was practically just watching the Cleveland camera for 30 minutes earlier, and it was a great time just watching that heavy rainfall. No need to go live because it wasn't even energetic or anything, just heavy showers moving on through, and we're still only kind of talking about that one severe thunderstorm warning, which I wonder how long they're going to keep it, just because it is still trying to dump out a little bit of hail. But again, I'm not quite impressed with it still, but there we go. I mean, you can still talk about, almost covering it up just a little bit. Some of those brighter returns still showcasing a little bit of that hail. Let's continue talking about that. I'll keep double checking the comments. We're not getting too many right now, so that's definitely a good sign. Sorry if I go off screen. The chat, it's very tiny on the place I'm at right now, but wanting to make sure to keep you guys informed in any questions you have. There we go. We're already getting those brighter returns. This storm continues to do its best to keep its kind of fuel and motivation going. We haven't talked about wind. Again, I mean, I'm not surprised by that just because this is one of our stronger storms. We got to talk about those mesocyclones, those rotating storms. They were seeing that above our heads, kind of further up in the atmosphere, not quite making it to the surface. So again, something I'm keeping my eye on. That's why I want to keep clicking on our storm relative wind to kind of see if we're seeing some of those tighter couplets. But again, our threats just continues to be very heavy on the hail side, and of course those heavy rains. So for any local flood-prone areas, that continues to also be a risk today, just because of how much these storms are just dumping and how slow they're moving. That means it's not going to be very quick. When it pops up, moves on through, it'll just kind of sit on top of you guys for a while. So still just kind of letting that storm continue to move on through. Let's put a few of those kind of doppers on there. We could see up to 1.5 inches in hail. Of course, this is peak impacts. That's what you can see at the top of your screen here. Not quite seeing that ongoing right now, but worst case scenario, we could see up to 1.5 inches, but that's kind of reaching that significant hail category. And again, we weren't too confident on that. So I'm not convinced, but I do think some hail could still be falling out of that as well. Shear, we're starting to see kind of just some of those pop up all across North Mississippi. Again, it'd be very, very bright to kind of sound the alarm bells off if something extreme was ongoing. We were talking about some of the wind rotating just a little bit, but as you can tell, is very minimal. So not too concerned about that tornadic threat. That hail track continues to be still impressive. I mean, you can tell where it was a lot more elevated out there towards Vaden, just east of the city. But as it crossed county lines closer towards Atala and into Montgomery, it continues, let me keep this on just in case I don't miss any notifications, continues to keep going, to be honest, but not quite as intense as it was. We're talking about those darker purples you see here. That gets closer towards the probable. So even when we're talking about these lighter shades of pink, we're still talking about it only being possible. So it's definitely probably the hail is elevated within that updraft. Don't know if it's quite reaching that stage to where it's heavy enough to beat the updraft and make its way down to the surface. But I think for those out there closer towards Vaden, just east of it, y'all definitely got some of that hail. I think it's struggling a little bit more pretty much along that county line, along the Atala-Montgomery county line at this moment. But that is probably exactly why that severe thunderstorm warning continues to stay in place for a few of our counties here in North Mississippi. You can even see that darker return already faded just a second ago. Just in case you guys missed it, we're talking about those darker returns starting to fade just a little bit. So this storm, I mean, it's slowly decaying. It's definitely in that decaying phase. We're talking about those lightning strikes now below or sub 150, getting closer towards that 100 mark now around 142, which I'm of course blocking. I forget y'all can't see anything or everything that I can on my screen just because I'm standing here. So still showcasing that. They continue to shave down that warning as that impressive cell continues moving further and further southeast, getting closer towards the French Camp community, Liberty Chapel, Shady Grove. And I tried to put storm tracks on this, but because of kind of how out in the sticks this is, Not not too many communities out there, and with how slow it is, 15 miles per hour, we can only extend that so far. It's still pretty much just along some of those county roads, and which you guys can see there, which I can zoom in for some of you guys in case y'all are curious. So let's get this kind of framed right for you guys. We just highlighted a bunch of those cities. So for French Camp, Liberty Chapel, Shady Grove, y'all are pretty much just triangulating right around that cell. It's going to look to move right in between all of you guys. What road are there we go. We can zoom in like that. Okay, so pretty much along Highway 43. I know this is very zoomed in, guys, but for those that are being affected by it currently, I know the viewers are definitely curious. I want to zoom in for all of you guys out there. That way y'all know where y'all are at and where the cell is. So pretty much along Highway 43, kind of where that more impressive part of the cell continues to be. That's right along the Atala and Montgomery County line. Right over, is that Ellis Road? Yeah, Ellis Road. And it's going to continue moving on through, getting closer towards Minor Road. So that'll probably be kind of one of the targets we can say instead of a city, Minor Road. And for all those neighborhoods out there, let's zoom in on these streets out here if we can get them and populate them. I don't think we can because we are pretty much out in the sticks here. But hey, that's Mississippi for us, and we love Mississippi. But yeah, so still showcasing that cell continue to move on through. Again, it's continuing to try to dump some of that hail as it continues moving on through, but wanting to keep an eye on that. Let me make sure my notifications, I know Storm Chasers continue to send things. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything for you guys. That way I can give you guys the very latest. Let's see what they're talking about. Okay, everything's looking good. I think they may have positioned. Let's go take a look at that Ackerman camera. We haven't checked that one in a while, and that cell is getting closer towards you guys. And we're just talking about that in the chat. Yeah, there you go. Okay, we can start talking about some of that rainfall. Yeah, take a look at this. We're talking about some low clouds continue to kind of just get closer and closer towards the surface. But again, we're talking about some of that heavy rainfall. You can definitely tell where it's heaviest because you can't really see the horizon quite as well. Where it's clear, you can definitely see kind of those yellows closer towards maybe a light shade of orange as we're getting closer and closer towards sunset. Still got a few hours to go. That's kind of what we're supposed to see if it's not quite as rainy. And then the further towards the right of the screen you look, we're starting to talk about some of that heavy rainfall inching closer and closer towards you guys in Ackerman and into Choctaw County. But take a look at the bottom left of your screen, not quite within y'all's county just yet. You do see that severe thunderstorm warning that has been issued around like 40 minutes ago. So we're still discussing that, wanting to make sure to give you guys the very latest of those birds flying behind me, but still pretty beautiful out there in Choctaw County, not quite having to worry about anything going on there just yet. Okay, just catching on the road. Okay, yep. Catching up with the comments. Sorry, I was reading one of the words and y'all were talking about some of the road names and all y'all's places out there. So yeah, this thunderstorm, I mean, continues to still impress as much as it can as it continues to decay. Those strikes are now down to 130, but I mean, we can still see those brighter returns with some of that hail, I would say, further aloft in the system. I don't know if it's quite dropping it just yet, but let's take a look to see that. Yeah, they just sent a picture of that Ackerman camera we were just showing off. So let's take a look. Actually, let's go to wind first. Still talk about any rotation occurring. Nothing impressive, but still kind of trying to showcase some of that rotation occurring further aloft within that storm we just saw on our Ackerman camera. There's definitely nothing reaching the surface and the ground. So don't have to worry about tornadoes still with this cell. The severe threats, which that's actually a really good sign. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so our peak threat, or showcasing that hail kind of right along this road, which we can, was that Highway 35? 43. That was close. We're still learning. There we go. So pretty much it stops almost along Highway 43. Let's look at precipitation. Okay, so we're still not really seeing that hail continue. So looks like it's just kind of that heavy rainfall continues to be the threat, and that's what those brighter returns are meaning. So not even showcasing hail, just super, super heavy rainfall continuing to move on through. I'm sorry, I keep checking notifications, so I'm going to make sure I keep you guys informed in case anybody's letting me know something else I need to look at. But that severe thunderstorm warning continues to be the only warning within our community. We can zoom back out, take a look at everything ongoing here in North Mississippi. Most of those intense shells continue to stay further down south in the southern portions of the Delta, pretty much along I-55 and a little bit further east. And we're still, let's go take a look at that one in Louisville. I know you guys were asking about that one. This one continues to really ramp on up and kind of continue to intensify, which we can definitely talk about those lightning strikes. That severe thunderstorm warning we were talking about still had around 130. This one's only up towards, make sure it's not included. I want to kind of keep those strikes minimal. So around 89, and I'm not surprised to see those strikes probably continue increasing. By the time I'm done talking about this storm, we'll probably definitely be in triple digits if it continues increasing. Oh, there we go. I'm still covering up. But total strikes around 90. Keep forgetting that's going to be right behind my big head. So I wanted to still show that for you guys. But that cell now over Liberty at this moment. Ooh, looks like they got a good picture of Cleveland. Let's go take a look at that real quick before we get back to this storm. Because still it's below severe criteria, but I like getting you guys good visuals. Yeah, take a look at this. This is that cell over Cleveland right now. Just those darker clouds. Almost kind of looks like maybe you could go as far to say that's kind of a wall shelf cloud kind of moving over the city. But that rain continues to move on through and looks like it's kind of protruding out of your screen. It continues moving closer and closer towards the camera. But again, seeing those rain bands off in the distance continue to fall. So again, not seeing anything impressive, anything reaching the surface. That's a very good sign. Just heavy amounts of rain, maybe hail, but that's probably continued further aloft. I don't think we're talking about anything hail related with this storm. We're talking about this little tiny blip moving on through. But even that continues to look very impressive with this camera. So again, big thanks to the North Mississippi Storm Chasers for providing these cameras for us. So that way you can kind of see what's ongoing out there. That's a very impressive shot with some heavy rainfall occurring. So let's go take a look. Let's go back to the Louisville one. That's the one I was talking about. There we go. We're still here. There we go. All right, let's zoom back in, talk about that, and let's see where those lightning strikes are at. Let's see. It's going to have to update because we were just around 80, almost close to 90. So I don't know why we're down to 53. There you go. I'm learning, making sure you guys can see that as we continue. Real quick, actually, no, let me continue covering this, and then I'll look back at those comments. Actually, no, there's still nothing too impressive here, just some heavy rainfall. Let's go through our threats again, see if it's trying to drop some of that hail for you guys. There we go. Take a look at that. Yeah, again, very minimal. If that, again, that's just the possible kind of color, just showcasing that hail is possible. Whether or not it's making it to the surface, not quite with something of that low confidence. And based off reflectivity, I wasn't really going to think it was making it that far either. But some heavy rain affecting you guys out there. Real quick, I was looking at the comments. What's expected for the Greenville area? Let's zoom back out, kind of go back out there towards the Delta, and we'll go back towards reflectivity. Greenville was one of the areas I was kind of keeping an eye out for, which I actually make it to where you guys can kind of see yourselves out there. Not quite seeing that rainfall just yet. I wouldn't be surprised to see kind of some more move on in, but we're still kind of noticing all of that's a little bit further northeast of y'all's community right now. So hoping to keep it that way. Y'all continue to stay dry. Some more kind of intense weather further out west. You can see a severe thunderstorm out there in Louisiana, not affecting us here in North Mississippi. But for Greenville right now, y'all continue to stay dry. Would not be surprised to see some of those heavier showers a little bit later on tonight, as we're continuing to keep our eyes on this pretty much all night long to keep you guys informed this evening, especially with it being Mother's Day. So I know all of y'all have fun, exciting plans to celebrate all of y'all special moms out there. Celebrated my mom earlier today for breakfast. That way I could get up to work early, keep you guys in the loop. So I was able to make it all work out. And it's been a great Mother's Day so far, and I know she's enjoyed hers. So it's been very relaxing, and thankfully she's staying dry out there and Starkville as well. Let's come back to those severe thunderstorm warnings, or warning, singular, because we're only talking about one, and which now we can already see that hail, well, brighter return starting to pop on up. This is out there in Atala. Yep, yeah, we're still kind of more south of that county line into Atala. Some heavier rainfall out there in Montgomery. Not quite seeing much into Choctaw. Y'all just kind of got clipped into that original warning, but this continues to push further southeast. So if any of y'all were to see some of that heavy rainfall make its way, it's going to be closer towards Ware and McCool for still Atala County, and maybe even to Kerr for Choctaw. Not quite seeing that all the way up into Ackerman at this moment. They would have to shift, almost going completely east by that point, which let's take a look at the latest direction for you guys to give you guys kind of the latest movement on it. Yeah, it continues to stay pretty much just southeast, and you can see them continue to shave off that warning as it continues to make its way through. But Definitely some brighter returns making its way closer towards you guys. Let's see. Go back towards those threats. Yeah, the hail's still possible. Let me continue checking this for you guys. Make sure everything's good. Checking all the notifications with the storm chasers. Okay, there we go. Yeah, everything's good. But yeah, no, I'd say this storm just continues doing its best to just dump out some hail for you guys out there. Pretty much right over, let's see if we have kind of just north of Liberty Chapel, still right in between French Camp, Liberty Chapel, and Shady Grove. That's what we were just talking about. There you go, Matt. We've been kind of taking a look at this severe thunderstorm warning as it continues slowly.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's just slowly moving through North Mississippi, but kind of hail related and just dumping lots of rainfall for everybody out there.
Absolutely. Not a ton of lightning, That's one of the other things I kind of noticed behind you on that. There's just not an absolute ton of lightning. I can take over for a few minutes, give you a chance. Are we all good on all the other forecast components ready to go?
Yeah, I can continue working on that behind the scenes. I kind of got everything in for the next 24 hours because I knew that was the majority of what everybody was concerned about, and I'll continue working on the 7-day behind the scenes if you want that.
Okay, I'll go ahead and get that flipped over, and then I'll take over for you for a few minutes here. We'll kind of reset.
Sounds good.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, resetting here again. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Caleb Bettelblut, tracking a severe thunderstorm warning in effect there for Attala County until 5:15. Again, hail, as Caleb was mentioning, probably the most likely impact we're going to get out of this storm. It has done a pretty effective job of continuing kind of this right turn, so to speak. I mean, you can see how it is heading a little more south of east, and that has pretty much been what it's been doing. I find it very fascinating. The camera shot there that Caleb showed you a little bit ago from Ackerman. I mean, you could see a wall cloud on it from that distance away. But and I think we'll see if we can actually move this camera a little bit to the left to be able to kind of keep an eye on it there. Just give me a moment to kind of make that adjustment for you. But that is probably what we're looking at there, kind of all the way past the rainfall there is kind of to what would be the wall cloud on the opposite side there, as interesting as that is. So this is in Choctaw County and Ackerman. So this is going to be obviously that rainfall. I'm going to go back and forth here a couple times, kind of show you. This is one of the rare opportunities where I think we have a storm that is maybe producing hail, has some rotation, not likely a tornado to come out of it. So we can talk about a little what we're looking at. So Ackerman, you can see right there again where we're looking on the screen there in Ackerman, obviously, and then shooting back toward the west toward this. And so all of the gray you see is that heavy rainfall there that's moving toward Highway 12 and McCool. Let's get a speed on this. I'm going to double check our speed for a moment. So this is a 1-hour loop here. And we're going to have that back to, again, this is not a fast move. We're only 15-ish miles per hour. We'll look at that storm near Knox Pater here in a second as well. Again, if you do have storm reports to pass along to us, weather at you could send those into info@msliveweather.com. Honestly, obviously, the best way is using the Mississippi Live Weather app. We'll put the QR codes there on the screen where you can go ahead and follow us on that. I'm going to have to change that, but that doesn't automatically change over like that. But yeah, as you can see there, certainly recommend that you download that app. It is free and available for all the different devices that you could want to use to track out severe weather and storms. I'm going to track the hail potential again. That's what this is here. And it's just not very fast moving. I'm up at the 20 just because I'd rather be too fast than too slow. Let's go down to 19 miles per hour. It's just not moving quickly at all. And we're going to take that out, we'll say 20 miles, because this is one that could potentially hold together a little bit longer. Drag that list of the people on the track there down slightly more. We'll drop it down to pretty much everybody that we can get in that there and widen it just a little bit. So again, McCool, we're looking at about 516 for you, 519 Bowie's Chapel, Kerr at 536 there, 543 at Rome, Ford at 552, and McMillan about 559. So as you can see, that would take us just about an hour out and up to our newscasts that we have then. Let's go out a little farther. It would take to Louisville before we got there. We'd be looking about 6:11 if it doesn't pick up any speed. Obviously, we have, I think the heaviest part of that probably slides just south of Louisville. I'm going to change the angle just a little bit more. But it'd be close to Louisville, south side there. Knox Pater about 623. Of course, we have one over top of you right now in Knox Pater. We'll get a storm track on that storm. clear this off and head down there. It's a little south of Knox Pater. This one has less hail with it. As you check our hail swath, brought to you by True Shield Roofing. We're going to check that a couple different ways from down there at the radar site in Monroe County. Another way down here farther south. This one does have a bit more hail in this latest look at it. Let's do a comparison. We were farther away, but notice how there's more of the dark purple in this one up north here versus the one we have south. We'll go ahead and take down those QR codes for a moment here. We'll bring it back into our regular kind of standardized shot there for a moment. And yeah, you can see how the purple, there's still some of that there, the darker purple. Again, more on that one. That's the reason that's prompted our severe thunderstorm warning versus our storm farther south. Let's go again back over here. Let's look at the camera there in Ackerman. Again, scanning back into this with another shot there. Is one of the easiest ways for us to get kind of a good look at that there. I think the hail size on that continues to kind of go up a little bit. And that's what this kind of bright white is there. That is all kind of that hail and heavy rainfall kind of falling on the north side of that. You can see a decent number of cloud to ground lightning strikes. This kind of the leading edge of the storm, and you could have argued briefly for a moment there we might have had some kind of wall cloud sort of structure with it. Again, our camera with the North Mississippi storm chasers there in Choctaw County. I kind of pan things over to the left and keep looking at this. We might actually be able to get it. So we'll take that shot in there a little closer. We don't do a lot of zooming on these because we like to see the overall features. But again, some low-hanging dark sort of clouds on that there, not something that we're too terribly concerned about, but it's kind of an interesting look there along the leading edge of that storm as it moves there through locations in northwest Attala County, northern Attala County. Again, this gray, bright gray that you're looking at here, this is likely probably the heavy rainfall and the hail. As we kind of pan a little bit farther to the west of that, this is going to probably miss the Ackerman area, but obviously you go past that, you can see all the kind of, it gets lighter and lighter as you get past where that storm is up kind of on the northwest side there. But yeah, so that's the shot there of the storm west of the Ackerman area. I got to pan a long ways this direction to see more sunshine kind of coming in completely on the other side of the storm. So again, this is a severe thunderstorm warning there for parts of Attala County. Choctaw County not officially included in this warning, but kind of an interesting shot there from a good angle out there in the Ackerman area. I mentioned Attala County again under that severe thunderstorm warning until at 5:15 p.m. We'll come and bring that off the screen here for a moment. And again, check our discussion with the National Weather Service. Things still, I think, good. Not a lot of information coming in there. I'm going to double check this one for a moment. Continuing again with the potential for hail that could potentially be up. A last update on this just in the last minute, potentially golf ball size hail what they're going on this. So takeaway on that is that I expect that if we're seeing that they could still expect to reissue this severe thunderstorm warning for locations in the south and east. When that reissuance goes out, Caleb will go ahead and do a push on that, a generalized push on the fact we're continuing to kind of track this at that point in time as this makes its way toward the Calvary community there in Attala County, Louisville, eventually here in the southern part of Choctaw County, and then eventually into Winston County as it slides south and east here. Let's go ahead and go out about 30 miles, we'll say, on that track. And so again, this severe thunderstorm warning doesn't extend to where most of these locations I'm listing are right now. For example, McCool, actually in Attala County there, is staying north and east of Kosciuszko. Bowie's Chapel at 513 there. But you jump to 524, and that's in Winston County. No official warning for you in Winston County yet, but if it continues to kind of drop what hail it's potentially dropping, that might become necessary. We'll look three-dimensionally on this storm. Again, it is a rotating thunderstorm, but rotation doesn't always mean tornado. And in this case, it's one of those instances where it doesn't mean tornado. Rotation in this case means large hail. As we cut through this, you'll notice as we talk often about that hail core is pretty obvious. And whoo, there you go. Look at that. So if you've been watching us through the severe season, you know that that when it starts looking like this, we know we've got some big hail in that. I'm going to change this over to a half-hour, 1-minute loop. I think that'll be more beneficial. And we'll put that back into play there. But yeah, this is a lot of big hail up aloft. Notice how it's smaller, smaller, and then this last scan, it's like whoop. So that's what's producing the big hail there south of French Camp. That's likely going to fall out of this along Highway 12. It's probably, I mean, it's going over the Natchez Trace at this instant with a lot of big hail and likely some 70-mile-per-hour winds getting kicked out of that. So that could be golf ball size hail reasonably with that storm there in Attala County. So fairly rough look at that for sure. And send in those hail pictures using the Mississippi Live Weather app. Largest hail picture, our friends at True Shield Roofing helping us in a number of different ways to kind of look at the hail potential on these storms. Use that app there. They give away a $100 gift card to Walmart anytime there's at least 1-inch hail. We have a couple of that we're giving away to the first part of next week from some storms last week. But you can see right over the Natchez Trace there, north of Liberty Chapel, where the hail potential is the greatest using our True Shield hail threat, where it kind of takes that 3-dimensional and squishes it down to 1-dimensional here. So right there, I appreciate that, Siri. Siri's always listening in the background as well. So hopefully folks there, right where I have that white line between halfway between the Natchez Trace and Highway 12 north of Multona Springs. It's the first time I've seen that one on radar, near Allen Road and east of Milner Road in Attala County, where our largest hail is moving toward McCool and Bowie's Chapel at this time. I'll pop up our chat where we can kind of see behind the screen, behind the scenes, what everyone else is saying there. Appreciate y'all. Yeah, just hopefully kind of giving some updates there. Watching from Houston, thanks for the updates. I'm not sick. I'm just a little tired. My neck hurts somewhat, and Caleb's been doing a great job here. Let's go ahead, and I think I see someone mentioning, another location on there, like Tupelo, for example. We'll come right back to this storm in a second. We'll kind of give you a one-over on how everything else looks, though, for everyone, and then we'll come back to this here in just a second. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut. Current time is now 5:05. We have some isolated thunderstorms out there that we're tracking from Grenada to Greenwood to Cleveland, all kind of expanding south and eastward. The storm that we have there north of Kosciuszko, south of Ackerman, is probably our most impressive storm. Second most impressive storm is this one we have probably south, close to the Noxapater area near Stallo and the Hike community. This one's getting more organized as we speak, and there is some rotation on this one. But the thing to note is, though we see some broad rotation, we think hail is the main impact. On our severe threats, peak severe threats, we have some hail showing up on this, not a ton, but it says at peak, maybe 1-inch hail possible. Now, I'll tell you this, even with 1-inch hail possible on that, I think it's likely a little bit smaller than that at this point in time here. So let's get a track on this toward the south and east. And I think they've all been kind of moving kind of south and east here at about 25 to 30 miles per hour. So we show that at Stallo at about 5:07, looking toward North Bend there at 5:23, Bond at 5:24, and then Bogchito there at 5:33. This is probably some hail. Could be maybe up to 3/4 of an inch in size. I don't know what we're quite the 1-inch size hail at this point. We'll look 3D on that. We'll cut through that one as well to see if we can do a comparison, because we do show some of the bright pinks indicating some really heavy sort of precipitation. But do a comparison here for a second. Though farther away, this one is a lot stronger, taller, and will likely prompt a new severe thunderstorm warning that does extend into western parts of Winston County as it kind of moves that direction there. So if for folks ahead of this, hopefully they're aware that, in fact, I think that warning might have just come out a second ago. So we'll look at that and get a track on that northern storm. Yep, they've gone ahead and issued the new severe thunderstorm warning on this for Choctaw County, parts of Winston County, and Attala County until 6:15. This is Doppler radar indicated large hail that could potentially be hail up in excess of an inch and a half in size. On the warning, they mentioned 1.75 inches, 1 3/4 inches, the size of the hail possible out of this. And we can definitely see that big kind of purple blob that you'll see there is that hail, some of which is falling, big hail falling now south of French Camp, between French Camp, between the Natchez Trace over here and Mississippi Highway 12 right there. Some of the times on the screen still remain valid there. McCool, we're looking at about 5:11 for you, some large hail likely to fall out of this. I'll put this back into a 30-minute loop here, get that rolling for you. I mean, you're right on the target there, Bowie's Chapel, excuse me. One of these days, here in a minute, I'll get it. But yeah, right there. McCool as well. This is moving right toward you. Large hail potential out of it. I'll put my little line on here to show the exact spot. Right there is where it is. So the severe thunderstorm warning that will be expiring is the one that's back to the west here at 5:15. I don't know that the hail is going to completely exit this by the time the warning has expired, but likely dropping some big hail. It'd be near impossible to distance. So make sure to send those hail pictures in using the Mississippi Live Weather app, and maybe you'll be one of the folks that's able to win that $100 gift card from True Shield Roofing. It's a $100 Walmart gift card. You can spend that thing anywhere, because our hail threat on this, when we kind of look at our peak hail impacts, the white lines there are all the lightning strikes, so quite a few of those. But the peak hail impact we see kind of in the purple there, that's 3+ inch hail out of this. So it's a pretty good size hail likely falling out of that storm. We'll look at this from the Ackerman area. We've had a pretty good shot from there of late, and still kind of showing what is likely kind of on the right-hand part of the screen here. All this white is that giant hail that's falling out of it. That is kind of the leading edge where air is being ingested into the storm there. Let's see if I can check our discussion with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers here for a moment. Actually, give me just a second to grab my iPad from over here, double check where they're at on things. But obviously, it continues to be a pretty heavy storm there. And I'll go ahead and query the new warning, which is for locations south of Ackerman in particular. You know, this camera site here in Ackerman, will widen this out because we have it zoomed in just a little bit. Give you kind of more of an idea for folks there in Ackerman as it's approaching. That bright white, though, on the right-hand part of the screen, that's all that really large hail with this. And then we're looking past this toward another thunderstorm that's right behind me there as well. But this is a rotating storm, but not a rotating storm in a way that we expect to see tornadoes. That's not the way this one will play out. Come back here and checking some shots from the North Mississippi Storm Chasers there. And you know, they're looking at some of the other cameras with some impressive shots as well. Let me go wide here and double check that. Give me a moment. Boy, there are some other rough looks on this. Let's go over there to Cleveland for a moment. Clarksdale, slide south, Shelby. Yeah, right over top of Cleveland. Looks like we have a storm pretty much right to the east of town there. I'll try to get out of the way. That one looks pretty impressive. These are going to be hail-producing storms wherever they are today. We're right in the midst of the tower, so we'll have to wait for that one to try to emerge from that. But some low-hanging stuff. Let's get the radar over there to take a look, and we'll go ahead and clear everything off of Mama Justice Doppler for a moment and look at that one, because that one's, again, in the Delta here. We don't have great radar coverage from time to time, but let's go back. We'll be looking from a long distance away. This was all the way there from Monroe County. Do kind of a radar tour here from Jackson. From the Memphis airport, we're outside of the range there. And then the regular Memphis Weather Service radars were probably best from Monroe County. So that's probably at least a little bit of heavy precipitation there. Let's do we call a cross section on it. We'll go 3D. Do I have it just outside the area? I have that just outside the area. Let's go ahead and expand that box. Hold on. There we go. And that should give us a better look at that. Let's go ahead and do a slice. We'll sometimes call this RHI, or cross section. Well, we're looking a ways up. It's obviously still well above the surface. So this would be 10,000 feet. So this is not nearly as high with some of that hail as what some of the other storms are. We'll get a motion on it and a track on it. But considering all the big hail we have out of that other thunderstorm, I think we'll concentrate a little bit more on that one here for a moment after we get past this. But we'll do want to get you kind of a storm track on that one there. Put that into motion. We'll do a 1 hour loop. Not really moving very fast. In fact, I'd be overdoing it to say 30 miles per hour that we had on the other thunderstorm. So we'll track this towards Schlater, we'll say. We'll go 25 miles per hour there. We show Ruleville at about 520, Cottondale at 524. Now, if that were to kind of pull a little bit more back toward the south, which is entirely possible, we'll adjust that there. We'll take that out. We'll say about 25 miles to go the whole hour there. And so McNutt, we show about 548 for you, Schlater at 552, Rixwood at 554, Shell Mound at 603, 607 Wildwood, and Wakeland at 613. This is Doppler radar indicated hail, but I think mostly really heavy rainfall. We'll see if it really picks up to that next level. You can clearly see there's a difference in class, though, between that storm there. We have one near Winona getting a little bit stronger, so we'll take a look at that one here in a moment. And then our big hail down here in our severe thunderstorm warning. So we're going to hit the severe thunderstorm warning, then we're going to go hit the hail on the other storm that we have up there toward Winona. So here's kind of our latest scan. We'll go 3D. That one still is a pretty impressive little storm down here. I'm going to look out of the corner of my eye on our Ackerman camera. Yeah, still showing good, solid structure on this storm. We'll leave it on the latest scan. And, you know, the reason we're kind of looking at this 3D look here is because when we cut it down, all of this is just big hail, this kind of purpley black stuff that we show high up in the sky. Compare what we have on this versus every other storm we have out there. Number one, you're not going to see it on any of the other thunderstorms, right? Nothing that even resembles it. So that helps us to kind of bullseye in on this one being a strong storm that could produce some big hail. And that black you see on the lowest scans, that is that hail falling out of this near McCool, back up there to west of Bowie's Chapel. So this is a rotating storm, but sometimes rotation means tornadoes. And in this case, rotation just means big hail. So near Mississippi Highway 12 and McCool there is where this is likely dropping that really big hail right now along 407 and 12. So I'll do kind of a track like this, what we call kind of a swath track sometimes. I have to go fairly wide, apparently, to get 25 miles an hour. And so obviously now in McCool, within the next couple of minutes here in the Bowie's Chapel, Rome at 541 there, Ford at 544, and Knox-Pater at 612. Doppler radar indicated large hail out of this, and probably some wind damage potential as well. Just kind of looking here through the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, our chat. Don't really have a whole lot of reports coming in out of this as well. But that report, that most likely is going to end up coming from you anyway. So I'm kind of looking back here through our discussion back and forth. So Tishomingo County, you're going to probably be out of any of this kind of stuff. Monroe County, I'd say same thing. Obviously, Montgomery County, Sherry there, we're going to be watching this for you. But the biggest of this hail right now really falling at this moment here near McCool. And perhaps this is going to go through a bit of a collapsing phase. I still show some, it might be difficult to even see. I'm going to see if I can turn off where it says this product, turn off the lower level stuff. So maybe you can just kind of see that right there, that little blip of something up there and that little blip of something there. Those are both hail that's still kind of developing up there more effectively up in the sky. Let me see if I can, put all the rest of it back on. Yep, that's kind of the next batch of hail. So it's dropping one big batch of hail now. And it's got another batch of hail that's kind of developing up there that it'll be dropping. That would be the one that I'd be thinking more toward Kerr if it kind of continues there. So severe thunderstorm warning continues for you in Attala, for Choctaw, and Winston counties until 6:15 p.m. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. We're a 24/7 weather streaming service based out of the Tupelo, Mississippi area. And on Mama Justice Doppler radar here, we're detecting some large hail that is going to be moving through a few locations. As I mentioned, Attala, Winston, and Choctaw counties, all kind of the epicenter for where that is at this moment. We're looking 3D here, showing the hail aloft within the thunderstorms. But luckily, we have a couple other important hail tools that we can use. Our hail swath, provided by True Shield Roofing, shows kind of the zone where we've had some of that biggest hail. The purple you see behind it here, those are locations where it's probable that we've had some damaging hail out of this. This helps us to kind of look at damaging hail potential. And so kind of that area where the darkest purple is where we're most likely to have seen some of that. I'm going to adjust our track, and give me a moment while I change something here to hopefully make our storm tracks more effective. On the cone track, we're going to take this to 60 minutes so that we can drag that out a little farther. Okay, and so let's go ahead and do just that. So about 25 miles per hour, if it kind of continues at this angle, eventually Louisville, you are in the path. I mean, you can pretty clearly see here the track the storm has taken to this point, right? From northwest to southeast. Speed has not been fast, but I can actually use this to kind of go back and say where it's laid down hail over the last hour, give us an idea on speed, and that says about 23 miles. So this is just absolutely creeping toward the south and east. Let's see if there's a way. Is there a way to just clear just an individual one? Nope, we got to clear it all. Farther south, we've had this one south of Noxapater that had looked heavier at times. Bringing it back into the Jackson radar site. You'll notice, though, most of this is the lighter pink, which is in that possible as opposed to probable category. No severe thunderstorm warning for these locations here, though a little bit of hail probably could be falling out of that as well. So we'll track that again. Similar speed, about 25 miles per hour south and east. And that gets it to DeKalb there at 618, North Bend 625, Bogue Chitto at 525 North Bend, 536 there, Bogue Chitto, Bluff Springs at 555, Bloomfield at 604, and Mount Nebo at 616. Sliding back behind, I mean, clearly you can see, well, there are two storms here. There's one of these that's much more impressive. Sometimes I'll call this a front feeder, where, if we were looking at a storm like this, that's rotating, and then the atmosphere was working the right way where it was going this way, we might be talking about this producing a tornado. But what this is doing is this is feeding right into the instability. It's kind of going the wrong direction. And so that a lot of times when that happens, you end up with hail and wind producers, primarily hail producers, though, in that scenario. And then up here, let's look at this one near Winona. Obviously, we were looking at a thunderstorm up here earlier on near the Fox community. We're going to go same angle here until it proves us otherwise. Again, this is at this point, non-severe thunderstorm, and we'll check out our camera there in Winona looking toward that storm. Again, appreciate our partners at the North Mississippi Storm Chasers for working with us on this camera network here across North Mississippi. Our Winona camera, we're kind of looking at this here, and we're looking we're looking the wrong way. Let's go ahead and flip this around toward the east. The problem with looking east, I think we look back into the tower. So they're trying to catch another shot on this. But this will go and swing this back around, I think, here in just a moment. Actually, I think they mentioned they lost control of this camera, now that I think about it. The problem with these being on towers is sometimes they take lightning strikes. Yeah, I see James texting me. I appreciate that. James with North Mississippi Storm Chasers. Hardest working man in weather in Mississippi. Always on top of it. Appreciate that, James. So that's the reason we're looking the other direction on that there. I saw them saying that, and then I completely forgot about it myself. But looking back towards some additional thunderstorms west of that location, I wonder, we might be able to get a shot there from Mabin of this. Give me a moment to make sure Mabin is facing the right direction. Okay, and we are looking we're looking kind of west, northwest-ish. Let's try point and zoom. I've never tried point and zoom on this before, but supposedly, okay. it will zoom down when it does that, but that might mean if we point it up that we'll be looking exactly the right direction. Learn something new on this. Rather learn something new on a day like today as opposed to a tornado sort of day, but that's looking there back toward the west and southwest, toward where that storm is kind of the heaviest. And look at a long distance away there at gray. So not the greatest shot from that distance away. Perhaps we could have a decent shot from our Adeton camera, which is sometimes we'll call it Starkville or West Starkville because on the west side there. Still looking from pretty decent distance away on that as well. But lots of the dark bluish sort of colors, and we're looking kind of the right way toward the Winona storm. If I kind of pan it this direction, we'll kind of look toward the storm there in southern, that's exited southern Montgomery County and Attala County. This is kind of a different way to look at that. You can kind of see the whole batch of the storm there. Uh-oh, I clicked off of this and it's my bad. Boy, I clicked the back button and it just did its own thing when it did that. So let's pan that back up. Looks like the bug's enjoying this one as well today. But so this kind of gives us a shot of the whole storm there from a longer distance away. Again, a fairly compact storm, but a lot of hail. That's what that portion is there kind of falling. We're looking down there toward that storm in Attala County. So looking a pretty good distance away from that, whereas we have a much closer shot at that same thunderstorm there from Choctaw County. And this is going to be the exact same angle between both of these there, looking at that. And so in Ackerman, the hail is to your south. So that fuzziness you see there shows you it's not that far south. Likely dropping some decent hail there. But the concentration on this is going to be down there in Attala moving into Winston County. So this is that first storm that we're looking up north. And this one, the hail potential might be coming down as we looked a little bit ago 3D on it. And hopefully that's the case. Maybe unwinding just a little bit. So I'm going to track kind of the whole hail core on this. Yeah, hail potential coming down a little bit more on this here with our instantaneous hail not quite as large as it was just a little bit ago. Near Bowie's Chapel and Kerr where we show it the strongest. So I'm going to use our peak threat here to kind of track it most effectively. So again, near the Kerr community at 529, this is Doppler radar indicated hail that could be in excess of 1 inch in size. At times in the past, it's looked like it could be up in excess of 1.5 inches. And I think, again, that hail size probably coming down on it, probably dropping its biggest hail in the last 10 minutes or so, maybe still dropping some of that big hail there. I think 2 inches probably overestimating maybe just a little bit, but it has probably dropped that at points in the fairly recent past versus where we're at now here. But large hail potential remains one of the main impacts on any of these thunderstorms today. We'll go back to 3D. I'm going to cut this 3D, the way we like to do that to get an idea on how much it's holding up there, because you get the hail that's detected, getting down the surface, and you get the hail that's holding aloft, and there's your difference, right? So, and that's the thing, that Kilmichael storm holding a little bit more hail up now than it was before there. That one getting a little closer to where it could be dealing with maybe inch-size hail. So we'll come back up to that one in a moment. But if we go back here, make this 1 minute data. We'll go back a few minutes. Look at your comparison, right? So this is when we had, for sure, probably golf ball size hail aloft in it. And then it falls there close to McCool. And most of that biggest hail has fallen out of it. I would say now it's a struggle that we would be even producing 1 inch hail up there in the clouds. I think it has dropped its biggest hail already. So sometimes when one of these unwinds, especially on kind of a marginal day like this, it drops its big hail and then it kind of falls apart. So that would be our hope with this, that perhaps it's dropped its biggest hail and now is in the process of falling apart. Let me go and get a better track on that there. Still some wind and lightning, certainly, but we'll go 25 miles per hour there. So there's some times as that moves toward the south and east. Large hail potential on that. Checking with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. They've had some visuals on these from time to time, but it does not look like any real issues that they have seen on it. I'm checking our chat with you guys behind the scenes here. And actually, I'll bring in Caleb here for a moment because he's been working behind the scenes as well. Caleb, have you been seeing anything in that chat with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers on this?
No, I was just finishing up the forecast. I was actually coming to see if there's been any pictures submitted, and we don't have any reports at this moment. So technically, good thing, because hopefully that means there's not too much report and people are staying inside, so not looking for it. But trying to keep my eyes out on the chat and also any reports coming in.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut there. Been kind of watching your reports on what you have sent in. Looks like, for me, some of the most recent stuff has been some sunsets. But I also think I need to log back into those. So I'm going to have to log mine back in. So if you see anything, go ahead.
I will say I did get this video sent in by a friend out there in the French Camp region. I posted it on my Facebook, so we can try to screen mirror it on the monitor behind me. It's a video of some hail dropping outside of French Camp, so I have that coming in.
Oh yeah, well, we definitely need to get that in. If you want to get that, go ahead and you can bring that up there, and just wave me on, and we'll come back to you here in just a second.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut, there at our downtown Tupelo studios for Mississippi Live Weather. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. Current time is 5:29 on this Sunday. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. For the folks out here in Choctaw, Attala, and Winston counties, we have a severe thunderstorm warning until 6:15. A lot of heavy rainfall with this. Just looking at the lightning, you can tell that this is starting to weaken a little bit more. I'm going to change our lightning rather than the lines back to the little zigzags. I think that shows the clustering of lightning a little better. And if I just walk this back, say about an hour ago, before this really ratcheted up, a decent amount of lightning. We kind of reached the peak here within the last half hour. There's a lot more lightning, right? Right when it was out here east of Shady Grove near McCool, just even 15 minutes ago, tons of lightning. We still show quite a bit of lightning, and it's spreading out a little bit more as the sun winds. But this is probably, with every passing minute, less likely to be producing large hail and having already dropped its biggest hail out of it. One of the ways we do that is using our True Shield hail swath. And I'll pull those lightning strikes back off of that here for a moment so that you can see those. But that darkest purple you see there is where we had probable damaging hail out of this as it moved toward the south and east there. So the strongest portion of this, I would say, is now stretching from just north of Kerr to near Rome to Rural Hill, just northwest of Mississippi Highway 14. We'll kind of track it based on sort of where we have this here, and moving southeast with a speed at around 25 miles per hour. And we're going to look at some other thunderstorms after this storm track here, but this kind of unwinding just a little bit, likely producing some hail. But I think the likelihood of this producing that monster hail that we probably had a little bit ago, 1.5 inches or greater in size, monster hail is probably overstating it, but golf ball size hail potentially out of this, that becomes less and less likely there. Looking behind the scenes, watching from Bald Hill, appreciate y'all there from watching us down there. But yeah, certainly some heavy rainfall, some lightning with this. And then still could have some gusty winds and perhaps some smaller hail, but I think that hail size continues to kind of diminish somewhat. Let's go wide here for a moment, pop that information off. I would say just kind of generally looking at this. First off, as I switch this back to our radar site out of Monroe County, we do have a few isolated thunderstorms up here in the northern part of the state. We have not really touched on those, so we'll come up there for a moment. Then we're going to come to Montgomery County, where we could have one that's a little bit stronger. Near Barton, Byhalia, Collierville, Victoria. Check our hail potential out of this. Don't have much on the farther shot all the way from Monroe County. Looking from the Memphis radar, maybe a little bit of hail near the Barton community there. Let's give you a lapse over the course of the last hour on this. I'm probably not going to show it there the last hour. It's just kind of started developing the last 30 minutes or so. Not a lot of movement on those. A storm track wouldn't do us much good. I would say that might be expanding up here closer along 72 toward Rossville. I mean, if this is moving 5 or 6 miles per hour, that's probably overdoing it just a little bit. But that's where this one, again, maybe some hail on the north side of that near Collierville. KC we show at 542, Tasca at 552, Rossville Junction 613, 617 Mount Pleasant. Doppler radar indicated heavy rainfall, lightning on that. starting to pick up a little bit more, but non-severe. Let's come down to Montgomery County. Montgomery County, and we're going to look at this from a couple spots, looking all the way there from the Memphis area near Minerva, south of Minerva. This one, we get a loop on this. I want to see actually from the Memphis radar. I want to make sure this is moving kind of the same direction. This is kind of moving almost directly east in the last little bit. It dropped a decent amount of hail, probably just north of Hendricks, north of US 82 in the last couple of minutes. We'll look at this from a few different sites. From there, we're going to go down to Jackson, which is also still too far away, and then we go to the radar in Monroe County. And there's some of that big hail falling out of this. I think still, when I say big hail, it could be an inch in size. So that'd be its biggest hail. Looking 3D on this, I don't know if it quite had enough to pull that off. Just not sure. It might have just been really, really heavy rainfall or some rain-coated small hail out of that. Either way, this one's not as impressive as that storm down south was. So it kind of slicing this here. I don't know that it still has a lot of that big hail up in it, or whatever its big hail is up in it. There's a little bit of that still in the north part there near Lodi. And that would be, let's see the road there. That'd be Salem Road, where it's moving with that. So let's go east. This probably also is not moving quite the 25 miles per hour some of those other storms were. So let's go, say, about, we can go 20 miles per hour. So Pelez we show at 605, 608 there. Tom Nolan, Wood Springs at 612 and 630. I don't know that this holds together all the way there to 630 and Biwai, but that's where it would be for you. I'm going to bring on our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut, who is got a shot there of what looks like some hail from down where I guess this would be near the French Camp area, right?
Yes, no, this would be exactly near the French Camp area. My friend sent this in earlier this evening as that kind of hail core moved on through. It was a video as her parents were kind of driving through the community, just wanted to pull over, kind of sit still as it moved on through. Before I press play, this was taken inside a car, so you'll have some water droplets try to mess with some images, but I mean, you can clearly see some of that hail kind of landing on the ground here. And kind of seeing some off in the distance as well. But just wanted to press play on this, just showcasing that hail continuing to fall. You can see some of those bigger pieces and just kind of continue to hit the car, especially if you could hear the sound. But some of that just kind of out in the grass, seeing those white stones. So not a good visual on kind of the size of it, but they did exactly everything right and not wanting to go outside, grab a piece of it, giving us that report. So we definitely don't need that. Thank you guys for staying inside y'all's car, kind of pulling off, letting it move on out of the area. But you can still see some of those impressive hailstones just kind of continuing to land on the grass kind of outside as that core continued to fall pretty much just outside the French Camp community. So that's been the only report I've gotten so far, Matt, of some hail being reported. So I'll make sure to keep my eyes on anything else that moves on through. The only other thing that I've seen kind of within Barron of people sending in pictures was actually this impressive shot of a rainbow. This was out there in Grenada, and I think it may have been on our Grenada Skycam. I don't know if it'll still be there. There you go. You already get another picture of it. So beautiful rainbow out there.
Yeah, another one. So some pretty good rainbow shots out there as well. I'd like to see those over the lake. You don't always see those this time of day, but you have to have the sun at the right angle and enough clearing between storms. And a pretty good shot there from Grenada Lake. Man, makes you want to be on the lake today. I mean, not right now, not with the storms there, but you get the point.
And vivid colors too. I mean, you can see almost each individual one in that rainbow.
Absolutely. It's our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut there back in our studios. Appreciate that. Bring up our chat with you guys here behind the scenes. About 1.25 inches of rain from the storm in Atala County, according to Clyde Shop 78 there. There was hail by the trace. How large that hail is, Clyde, would certainly help us out a lot. Clyde watching us on YouTube, you can see by that little red logo that you see, little red icon next to me there. Appreciate y'all in Bald Hill. And Columbus, checking in from Columbus on Mother's Day. Columbus, you're in the good for this right now. There's no truth to the idea that I am Father Nature at this point in time, but we're certainly talking about Mother Nature on Father's Day and the potential for severe weather and tornadoes. No tornado threat. Let's be clear about that. But severe thunderstorms, certainly a possibility there. And obviously, we do continue to have a severe thunderstorm warning that's in place for locations in Winston and Atala counties. Coming in a little closer on that, I don't think that this is producing severe hail or anything like that anymore. The way in which, if this were producing severe weather, it would produce it be in the form of wind and perhaps some lightning. Caleb will be looking at some power outages, looking at the local electric cooperatives here in a couple of minutes to kind of check some of those out. We'll check local electric cooperatives, kind of check out their maps, see what's going on. But I'd say the hail potential, you can see this kind of look in our True Shield hail tracker here. That's what this is, our hail threat track. Going back to where the actual rainfall of the storm is. Notice I put my hand like kind of right about here. And we'll go back over here and we'll look at the hail. Notice the hail doesn't really cross that line. And yet we show that the heaviest part of the storm is ahead. So I think this has probably dropped its largest hail out of it in the last few minutes. Really probably about 15, 20 minutes ago, probably dropped its largest hail. And I'm not convinced it still has the ability to produce damaging hail at this point. I'm honestly not 100% sure it even has hail in it at this time. We'll use our camera there in Ackerman to look back into this. This has been one of the cameras we've been able to use it pretty effectively, kind of looking back into some of these storms. And again, I'm going to have to probably pan this a little bit back to the left to continue to have a good angle on this. Left to be panned a little more south because now it's gone a little more south of Ackerman. Again, we're just kind of looking back through the hail on the north side there. Choctaw County, one of those locations under that severe thunderstorm warning until 6:15, the southern part of the county. But I would say that the worst of this is probably out of Choctaw County at this point in time. 73 degrees there. Showed fairly high dew point at 73 at the nearest reporting station. But reporter, according to the North Mississippi Storm Chasers there, of a viewer that did have up to golf ball size hail in McCool a little bit ago. So that would verify this warning where we said a little earlier on, golf ball size hail possible out of it. That would be kind of what they came back with that. So let's go and show you again on that True Shield hail track. We talked about that up here in McCool where that large hail was moving right toward town. So near the McCool area, golf ball size hail reported out of this when that storm was overhead. Now let's compare what that looks like then versus what it looks like now. The best way to do that, in my opinion, is to go 3D on this and kind of show you how things changed over time. So this big red blob, that's all the heavy precipitation up within the thunderstorm itself. As I kind of back it up here, that big red blob got a bit taller. And if I cut out all of the lighter rain, and this is still heavy rain, but we cut it back to just this. This is that big hail depicted up in the thunderstorm, heavy rainfall and hail that we had way up in there. We're going back to 511 here. We've mentioned McCool. We had that golf ball size hail report. As we go forward a little bit, see how all that just collapsed right out. That was likely that big hail falling out of it. And then, boom, by that point, it's used up all its hail. With that in mind, if that's what it took to produce golf ball size hail today, we look here at the radar, which doesn't always like it when I go 3D like this. There's a lot less there. Now, hold on a second. Well, it looks like that storm south of Nanawai has gotten a little more impressive as well. So let's dig into this one here in north of Bogachito near the Coy area. It's not as impressive as that other storm, but this is big enough that's probably some hail with it. We had some hail down here last week, so I think folks wouldn't like to see any more of that. Let's track this about 25 miles per hour, and again, that might be just a smidgen fast. So Bluff Springs about 604 for you. We'll look at that tracking there closer to Bloomfield at 612. DeKalb there at 626, 636. We're looking for Kipling Carter at about a 640. This is Doppler radar indicated hail of some size. Let's go back to our True Shield hail swath. It's been pretty consistent on producing that hail. It also has a slightly different track on the specific hail core from what I had. So let's go ahead and adjust that track a little bit more like that. There we go. Let's go 30 miles. And it might not hold on this whole time here, but that shows you Linville. Probably some hail on this 557 for you as it moves kind of your direction there. Likely going to be, again, no tornadoes on this today. I probably need to make sure that we say that very clearly and loudly and shout that from the rooftops. No tornadoes on what we're seeing here today. Hail would be the main impact if we were going to see something. That would be the most possible this. Here behind the scenes, North Mississippi Storm Chasers again, appreciate that. Let's see here. North Mississippi Storm Chasers commenting that my tie looks like with the paisleys on it. looks more like the rotating storms than the radar does today, which is a fair statement, I would say. But if this is going to produce hail, this is actually probably the most likely storm to produce some severe hail at this point. As you can see, the folks up here at the National Weather Service have allowed the warning to expire up here, canceled early, I should say, for Winston and Choctaw counties because that threat has passed. Let's look at the rest of these storms here. Dime-size hail in Noxapater a short time ago, reported by James with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers there. Again, you can share your reports with them and with us, and of course in our chat. That's what we're watching and beside me here. If you do have those storm reports, go ahead and send those in the chat. And we appreciate everyone for doing that there. I'm going to check in with our meteorologist, Caleb Bettelblut. He's been looking at some of the power outages and other sorts of information. Caleb, what are you seeing as of 5:43?
Yes, no, I'm definitely looking at some power outages, and we can tell exactly where that hail core kind of moved on through here in North Mississippi. The county that's been most affected right now is Carroll County with 161 customers out. And it's pretty much just along kind of almost the three corners of these counties. So between Carroll, Montgomery, and Attala is where we're seeing those outages, all reported by Entergy. So I wanted to pull that up for you guys just to showcase what region and kind of where it is. And you can see this huge amount of kind of just streets kind of out of power. And this is kind of that in between of all three of those counties that we just highlighted. And of course, that blue triangle shows 251 customers or more affected by these power outages. So wanted to zoom in here to kind of showcase what I'm talking about. You can see those dotted kind of dashed lines moving on through. That's all three counties. So you have Montgomery right here, Attala, and then up towards Carroll right there. But that blue triangle showcasing all those streets just kind of out of power if you're along those county lines. We were talking about Vaden a lot earlier as that hail core kind of just started as it crossed over I-55, kind of just east of the Vaden community. You can see that orange kind of octagon right there, or actually that's a hexagon, showcasing 51 to 250, excuse me, customers without power kind of within those streets. So that's Magnolia Street onto Cedar Street, Hurst Street, Herring Street, kind of within the Vaden community. And I mean, of course, still just a huge amount of people out of power here. So we can take a look at that. That's Attala Road, 3122, 3203, 3204, 3122. So a lot of people kind of reporting those power outages. You can go a little bit further east as well, seeing that purple little square kind of diamond pop on up as well, showcasing those power outages as well. This is just off of Highway 12 onto Rocky Port Road, Liberty Hill Road, and Attala Road 3122. So Matt, right now, those are all the power outages I'm seeing at this moment. You can definitely tell where that impressive hail core kind of moved on through, dropped all that hail and those damaging winds as well. Those were the two threats we kind of kept mentioning a bunch leading up to today as our two, I guess, elevated threats compared to the lack thereof of that tornadic threat. So still kind of keeping a visual on those outages, but thankfully only kind of contained towards those three right now, but also that's kind of where our most impressive storm has been at this hour as we're getting closer towards 6 o'clock time frame. But for those in Carroll, Montgomery, and Attala, we've been talking about you a lot so far on this live stream as that severe thunderstorm warning kind of encompassed most of your area, continues to move on out, still showcasing all those customers. So again, to talk about kind of who all's been affected, it's 161 out there in Carroll County. Again, all of those are tracked by Entergy. I'm kind of covering that up right here on the left side of your screen. So there are just over 1,000 customers tracked within that county and already almost to 200. So still impressive. I think the percentage is around 13%. So still pretty significant out there. Then Montgomery, 70 customers out of power, still all covered by Entergy. And then even into Attala County as well, 250. So as of right now, those are the major power outages within our region. You can kind of see further down south towards Jefferson County, over 1,000 customers are out of power as well. So haven't quite pulled up. Let's see who covers them. Oh, it's also Entergy as well. So I'll have to kind of see what that looks like. But for our region here in North Mississippi, Matt, for everybody that we cover within our viewing area, Carroll, Montgomery, and Attala continue to be the counties most affected so far.
Okay, we're going to take a brief break and be back with more coverage as Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center right after this.
You don't become part of a place by hanging a sign. You earn your place by showing up. Not just when it's easy, when it's everything. This isn't healthcare from a distance. North Mississippi Health Services is nationally recognized care that runs generations deep.
This house is under attack by so many pests. The family says that there's absolutely no hope. Bundleman, is there anything you can do to save this family?
Don't worry, miss. I've got you covered. Thanks to Wayne's and Viro Pest Bundles.
I love you.
For families who want it all, stay protected with Wayne's Pest Control.
It's by design we call ourselves Traceway Retirement Community, because community is what you have here. We all need it, deserve it, embrace it, where our community becomes your family. Traceway Retirement Community.
Welcome back. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. You're watching Mississippi Live. We are tracking some showers and thunderstorms that are strong and previously been severe for locations south of US 82 in particular. I would say that it remains possible that we could still have some heavier thunderstorms move through the northern part of the state. But one of the things I want to be crystal clear about is we do not anticipate tornadoes tonight. Let me say that again. We do not anticipate tornadoes tonight. Our risk for severe weather, again, as we showed you at midday today, primarily for locations back toward the south and west. We've kind of had some of these reports just on the northern edge of that there. Hail remains one of our most likely scenarios we talked about earlier today with our True Shield hail risk graphic. And if you do have large hail pictures to share with us, use the Mississippi Live Weather app to send that in. Largest hail picture gets a $100 gift card from True Shield Roofing, as long as that's up to 1 inch in size. Hoping that wasn't the case. But, you know, I try to make a bad day a little less bad. So send in those pictures if that's something that you have to report there. And when we look again at the wind risk, again, south and west, the most likely spots to see those. Locations such as Greenville, Cleveland, Greenwood. But this is maybe the biggest headline. Again, tornado risk for those folks. And I know there's some people, this is the only concern that you have, only thing we obviously don't want to deal with. No tornado risk for our area with this today. You got to go all the way back to Abilene, Texas to have even that level 2 risk that direction. So again, while we have some thunderstorms, we do not have anything that will produce tornadoes for our area. And you can tell by the lightning, as Caleb was talking about, that does have some power outage issues with some of these storms. But share your pictures with us using the Mississippi Live Weather app, probably the easiest way that you can do that. As of now, 5:50 on this Sunday, we'll bring it back into Mama Justice Doppler radar. We're kind of on the composite mode just to kind of see the overall picture here, to have an idea of what is happening, what has happening, and how it kind of fits into the overall scenario. Looks like we have had a couple of brief tornado reports up there closer to Searcy, Arkansas. Not good up there. And so that storm, let's get an idea on that. Let me just take a minute, because that also would have been probably outside of the primary. See, it's right on a boundary. Let me get a look at these here for just a moment. So funnel cloud. Let's bring it in the latest here. Funnel cloud. Funnel cloud. Okay, so they had some funnel clouds, no official full-on tornado touchdowns with that stuff up there. Good. That's what we want to hear. I want to take a look, just again, to have an idea. You always want to know what the atmosphere is capable of, right? And so this shows that, yeah, as those were kind of popping up, some funnel clouds there, they're right on a boundary. See how they didn't really move? So sometimes storms popping up on boundary do weird things. So that's what they likely had up there. So makes me want to investigate these a little closer then as well, because these are kind of going up on little boundaries, and so it's not impossible. You could get, see, that goes right up on that outflow boundary. That's why it's kind of lit up there along 57 back toward Grand Junction. So heavy rainfall, a decent amount of lightning. Checking our True Shield hail swath, we don't have any significant hail out of that, and all those kind of expanding more toward the east. Let me put this back to a 1 hour loop. That'll be probably more effective to show that. Yeah, so a little bit of hail starting to come out of those potentially. Compare that to what we have farther south. You can clearly see from where our thunderstorm down here in Attala County, when it was at its strongest, the hail potential was a little greater on that. I'm going to switch down to our hail swath out of our radar site there in, this would be Monroe County. And that storm kind of northeast of Philadelphia, moving near Bogue Chitto there, that one is one of our heaviest. So let's check now out of, we're going to go for out of Jackson on this one. And so it's kind of aiming that there again, right along 397. We'll look 3D on that as well while we're looking at this. Yeah, this one's pretty compact on where it's dropping, whatever it is it's dropping, which could include some large hail. So coming up at 6 o'clock, by the way, we'll have our Mississippi Live weather at 6, our typical broadcast for you, and kind of give you a one-over on what the everything looks like right now and what it could look like going forward. I see James with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers dropping in a shot of that hail from McCool, and this was not small hail by any stretch of the imagination. Let's go ahead and pull this up for you. This is what that hail in McCool looked like. I'm going to have to transition that there, and we'll change this over to this shot. So this is some of that hail in McCool. You can see in the hand there, that's a pretty large hailstone sent in just a little bit ago through our partners at the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. Even if that's not a small hand, that's still a large hailstone. Typically always helps us to have a coin right next to it so we can really truly gauge based off of a fixed size how large it is. But that one looks pretty rough. That's a fairly large hailstone there. That fell out of that a little bit ago. Appreciate everyone for watching with us again. What about Monroe County, Amory, and Aberdeen? No issues for you. That's not to say something doesn't pop up later. We do expect we'll have some isolated storms later there, but I wanted to say that the overarching theme is whether it's Bruce or Amory or Water Valley, that this is not tornado weather today. This is hail if we see something out of it from Macon or really any of the other locations that we've been kind of tracking these. Might actually have a shot of this storm here as we bring it back over to the Macon area. This one is a little south of Macon. Might actually have a shot of that from our camera. We're looking through, I think, a decent amount of green, so I don't know that we're going to have a good look at this. But we have a camera with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers there in the Macon area. So kind of put something else back together here for us. So again, that would be looking all the way toward that storm, and I'm kind of in the way of the most interesting part of it. Appreciate, again, North Mississippi Storm Chasers for actually moving that camera for me there, but that's looking again toward kind of the ingest part of the thunderstorm, for lack of a better way to put it, where everything's going up and in that thunderstorm. And then all this kind of grayish sort of stuff you see there, that's some of the hail. These are corpuscular rays, where the rays of sunshine hitting the hole in the clouds there and kind of shining on through. So kind of a bunch of different pretty things at the same time that's probably producing some hail down south there as well. This camera provided by North Mississippi Storm Chasers. 81 right now there in Macon as of the latest update. The dew point not as high as some other locations there. We've relied quite heavily on some other cameras today. I'm going to come to Kosciuszko. Unfortunately, our Kosciuszko camera, not one that we can pan, so we're kind of locked into a shot on this one here, so we don't have a good look there. Kosciuszko, the worst of that storm, kind of stayed east of you and continues to be a little east of you at this time as well. I've used pretty extensively our camera there in Choctaw County and Ackerman. Just kind of looks gray as that closest thunderstorm there is largely kind of falling apart. It's looking southeast there. No good shot on that at the moment. But I'm going to switch that back around and look toward the north and west because got another storm kind of coming from that direction there. So give me a moment for this to kind of flip back around. And you could see, again, similar structure on some of these thunderstorms. I'll look back that direction as well. Again, this is where everything's kind of being ingested into the thunderstorm. And then kind of back in the background there is where some of the hail is. So these kind of moving right into the fuel, just kind of gobbling up fuel as they move south and east and into those at this time. Looks like some pretty hefty rainfall. Caleb's got their picture of behind the scenes. So whether it's producing large hail or in some cases really heavy rainfall, they've been productive, right?
Yeah, no, they've been very productive. This picture was actually sent in by Amy out there just west of the French Camp community. That continues to be a community we've been talking about a lot today within Atala County and even into Carroll and Montgomery, all those different counties we've been talking about, but showcasing her rain gauge and already receiving over an inch of rainfall. So just with how heavy these cells have been and how slow they move, if they just kind of form on top of you guys and kind of just sit there, they're just dumping that constant rainfall over your respective city and kind of street. So showcasing the amount of rainfall you can get as these cells kind of move over. And Thankfully, that's about it that I have to report. I was also taking a look at those power outages. We have not seen any more pop up, which is definitely a good sign as we continue into the evening ahead as these storms continue moving on through. So looks like Matt popped up the chat. Wanted to make sure to keep you guys involved as we continue covering everything. Looks like everybody's still in good spirits for Mother's Day. Looks like Bentley wishing everybody a good afternoon. It's definitely been one, and thankfully not having to talk about too many severe thunderstorms or just kind of those more intense storms moving through North Mississippi. Only kind of covered that one that moved on through. But somebody was asking about Solent, Alabama. Not quite seeing that rainfall just yet. We've been looking at those models kind of throughout the weekend and kind of this morning and even into this afternoon and evening. And I know people were asking about Louisville, Starkville, kind of the Columbus region, and even into Alabama. Unfortunately, we get that rainfall a little bit later on into your evening overnight period. It just makes it to you guys last, which is definitely a good thing because that means it doesn't really have that daytime heating to act off of. So not going to be as hot and kind of feeding off that energy. But you guys should still get some rainfall later on tonight, but thankfully not seeing anything at this moment, Matt.
Absolutely. Okay, we're going to go and re-rack things.
I have been going to Two Place Smiles my whole life. When I was a kid, I was unhappy about some uneven coloring on my teeth after getting my braces off, which at the time there really wasn't a fix. I was recently made aware of a solution that would totally fix it, which is exactly what we did. They not only heard my concerns, but they never stopped looking to solve my problem, and that's why I love Two Place Smiles.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
Welcome in Mississippi Live Weather at 6. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut. We are tracking some thunderstorms that will continue into the evening. We think if we're going to see something, large hail would be that most likely impact that you and I would end up running into. A couple strong wind gusts possible, but I want to say right out of the gate here, we are not talking about a tornado threat. I'm going to say not zero, but I'm going to say 0.25% likelihood. Again, it's not going to happen tonight out of these storms. They're too high based. They have produced, in some cases, hail not just to 1 inch in size, in some cases in excess of 1.5 inches in size. Some patchy strong wind gusts. So we haven't had a whole lot of reports of that out there. Our North Mississippi Storm Chaser has been kind of tracking things behind the scenes as well. But the overall headline, I think, into this evening is that most storms, for most of us, will not produce severe weather. It's mainly heavy rainfall, a lot of lightning, and then in some cases, that large hail, at least that we have seen to this point here. And in all likelihood, that's the way this goes forward as well. We're at 78 at 7 p.m., going 69 by 10, 65 by 1 o'clock in the morning. Again, rain and storm chances diminishing by early tomorrow. And much of the next week is going to be much more tranquil and much more dry. Looking at the latest here on Mama Justice Doppler radar on our overview, we have a frontal boundary that's kind of nudging into the area. Behind this, the air is less humid. That less humid air is something that we're going to use to bring in, again, lesser chances for rainfall. I think our frontal positioning is okay on where it's at. This one is not one where it's just a big wall and then we get an immediate drop, because now that we're transitioning to May, our fronts become weaker and weaker as we go in the summer, and then summer eventually dominates, right? So this one is more of an initiation point for the storms. There's still storms both in front of and behind it. I want to emphasize this as clearly as I can. There is no tornado threat with what we're contending with today. Here's that tornado risk as we outline it by the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma. As you can see, that showing up for locations back out there into Texas. That's where we do have a risk for tornadoes today. Our risk is going to be either wind, which is probably a little more prevalent than some of the other risks, or the possibility that we could see some large hails. We've talked extensively about using our True Shield roofing hail threat. There are some storms that have produced, in some cases, some hail up to golf ball size. So that's some big hail out there. Now, I think those storms have diminished somewhat, but we have additional storms that are going through development phase, and we expect more of those over the course of the next couple of hours here. So as you can see, looking at our future cast, most of us, again, some scattered showers and thunderstorms. Greatest likelihood still remains locations here from Memphis back to south and west of Amory and Columbus. This is our peak zone. There will be some thunderstorms farther east than that, some wind gusts possible, some hailstones possible, but the overarching theme over all of this is that no tornado threat. Still maybe some rumbles overnight, but no tornado threat. And as drier air moves in behind this, we have more tranquil weather that I think builds in looking into this upcoming work week. So rain coverage by tomorrow morning, limited. North winds keeping it, again, somewhat cooler feeling, more dry air moving in. 74, that's your peak temperature by tomorrow afternoon. Now, coming up in 60 seconds, we're using Mama Justice Doppler radar to go in depth on where these storms are. Looking at your full work week forecast as Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center in 60 seconds.
At First Choice Bank, we know you can't always make it before the bank closes. With our integrated teller, you can talk to a live person as late as 7 p.m. on weekdays and noon on Saturdays. It's not just an ATM, it's an ITM. First Choice Bank, your choice for banking.
Imagine your child with no place to sleep. For many children, that is their reality tonight. When you buy a mattress at Room to Room, we give one to a child in need through Beds for Kids. Buy a bed, give a bed, change a life.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me.
That was perfect.
But I heard every word.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lovehon.
Mix of clouds showing up from our camera in Starkville as we're using our North Mississippi Storm Chasers camera to look south toward Louisville. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lovehon. What we're kind of concentrating on here are these hail-producing thunderstorms. We're looking kind of in the backside of one of those down in the Louisville area. All the gray you see, that's that heavy precipitation. That wider sort of color there, probably some of that hail trying to fall out of this. And probably the best way to look at this is, of course, using Mama Justice Doppler radar. Appreciate our North Mississippi Storm Chasers, our partners here with that camera network across North Mississippi. Center Ridge community, we're looking at 611 for you as this storm, kind of with whatever hail it's developing up there, continues to move toward the south and east. Our True Shield hail swath, and again, showing the hail a little stronger down to the south. This was slightly stronger up closer to McCool earlier on. It's gone through a bit of a regeneration phase. When it was back toward McCool, if you missed this during our last the broadcast right before I guess we started this up a couple of minutes ago, this is an example of what some of the hail looks like out of this. This was about 1 3/4 inch size, close to golf ball size hail there near McCool that came out of this thunderstorm. So you can get some really big hailstones out of this, and you can share those hailstone pictures with us. If you have the largest hailstone picture sent in, you get a $100 gift card from True Shield Roofing. Got to be at least 1 inch in size. It would help if you had a coin next to it so we can verify that. But you can share those using the Mississippi Live Weather apps. For, as you can see, the smartphones as well as tablets. Those are the ones that where it's easiest to kind of share that information with us. And we'll go ahead and, again, pass that along to the National Weather Service. Try to make a bad day a little less bad, and appreciate the folks at True Shield Roofing for working with us on that there. Coming back here to our Mama Justice Doppler radar, and again, our True Shield hail threat on this. Go back 2D for a moment. So Louisville in particular, let's go, and I'm going to look at this about 5 different ways. Apologize, we're just going to pop up 5 or 6 different things. But you can see just southwest of town is where this is the heaviest, moving, again, along Highway 15, or at least going to cross Highway 15 within the next few minutes here as it moves toward the south and east there. So fairly large in size. Our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut with some pictures, again, coming in from the North Mississippi Storm Chasers there of this storm. Caleb, pretty good lightning strike there, right?
Yeah, no, I'm actually covering up most of it right here. I can stand over. This was sent in into our North Mississippi Storm Chasers group chat by Timothy Kern as he's out there kind of chasing these storms, keeping an eye on them, giving us some measurements on that. So I just pulled up this picture. I'm asking him where this strike occurred, which he actually just sent a picture, I think, of his location kind of going into one. So maybe just outside of Louisville. At least he sent that just a few minutes ago. So definitely a very impressive lightning strike out there. Still seeing that color and kind of just all the little strands making their way down. You can kind of see a faint one there, all the different kind of connecting step leaders working their way down. just showcasing kind of some of the energy with the storm, because that's been a thing that me and Matt have been talking about a lot. Those lightning strikes, they can kind of indicate that health of a thunderstorm, but also can cause some of those power outages, which I was covering earlier, which I'm still continuing to keep my eyes on that behind the scenes. Thankfully, not seeing an uptick. Unfortunately, not really seeing a decrease yet, but I know those guys are going to get out there as quick as they can to restore that power for you guys. Thankfully, not really seeing those power outages continue to climb. So very impressive shot of that lightning and kind of the power these thunderstorms can have out there, Matt, as they continue moving through North Mississippi this evening.
Absolutely. Appreciate that. That's our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut. Another storm that's these are borderline severe, not severe thunderstorms in the true sense of, in order to be a severe thunderstorm, it has to have at least 1-inch hail or wind gusts up to 58 miles per hour or greater. We're looking into the hail on a storm that's south of Macon here in the Room to Room Weather Center. We're looking from Macon south there toward the south and west. And this one, I think, is close to producing. I mean, it's just right on the edge. It probably has some hail. I just don't know that it's quite the true severe hail. It's come back on Mama Justice Doppler. We're looking near Scripps Mills and Bloomfield there in locations there north and west of DeKalb. Moving toward, again, along 397, where probably the largest hail on this is moving toward DeKalb, will be about that 624 for you. Carter's at 635 there. Townsend about 637. Akron 641. Oak Grove at 642. Using our True Shield hail swath on this to see where it's produced. It does have that going maybe a little bit farther east than where I have my track here. So let's go ahead and adjust the track just a little bit. So give me a moment to pull that, get that one selected there, and I think we'll adjust that one up slightly. There we go. I think our times stay pretty much the same, but I think that's probably a better shot on the track related to that. And if we go look 3D on this and kind of cut it down to its most intense, whatever that is, we do show some of that larger hail aloft with that one, probably more so than the Louisville storm. We show this from time to time. Maybe we don't always define what we're looking at here. If you look back up here toward Louisville, there's just this little blob of pink. And then this one has a bigger blob of pink and kind of blackish, purplish sort of color there. In both cases, that is hail that's probably up to around 3/4 of an inch in size, maybe a little bit larger than that. So that's our large hail that hasn't fallen out of that, but near Linville, it's trying. And I wouldn't be traveling along 397 until that kind of clears the area there. That could continue to be a little rough for a while longer. Outside of that, most of the storms, you don't really see nearly the intensity on any of them. I'm going to we'll clear off those tracks there. We're going to switch it over to our radar site out of Memphis. Go check on the storms in the far northern part of the state. So these storms are all of a sudden going to look like nothing because we're looking from so far away. And these will look a little stronger up north. But we don't have nearly as many purples and that sort of stuff. Our hail swath, not as impressive on this. Looking at the peak threats. All of this, when we kind of look at this graphic, we show where the purple is, maybe some hail out of this, not impossible. And most of this does not have a ton of movement to it. It's largely just kind of popping up and staying exactly where it is. And so that leaves the majority of North Mississippi and the majority of our viewers that watch us here on Mississippi Live kind of in this zone between, where there's frankly just not a ton going on. And so that's a good sign. And that means that, again, most of these are going to remain below severe limits. I'll leave it on the kind of latest scan. Again, not impossible to get that storm there southwest of Macon, northwest of DeKalb to become severe, but that would be kind of the exception versus everything else. Our school bus forecast, school day forecast for tomorrow has drop-off temperature coming in around 60 degrees. We're looking at 68 by lunch, 74 by the final bell under what should be, again, a mix of sun and clouds. So Futurecast continues to have these showers and thunderstorms out there next few hours. Not perfect on the positioning where we have everything, but doing a decent job depicting additional thunderstorms. But look at this for New Albany, for Tupelo, for Amory here. Notice how we just don't have really the darker reds move toward your directions. Well, just at the very end there, that does try to clip Amory. So again, not impossible to get some hailstones. That's why when we look at that severe risk area, for you, you're kind of on the edge of that. I'll go back and show that severe risk area, and then we'll reboot our Futurecast here for a moment again. So our severe risk area does involve, I mean, you're in it in Amory, just not in it like some other spots are. Tupelo, for example. And the greens here, that's a limited number of reports. Not expecting to have a lot of reports of severe weather for folks that are in this, but not impossible. Maybe see something there. No tornado risk tonight. Let's be clear on that. No tornado risk on this Mother's Day evening. Damaging wind a possibility, perhaps, and large hail a possibility, perhaps as well. And that's been the most likely thing we've seen here. Our True Shield roofing large hail risk has been useful today as well. But again, looking back on Mama Justice Doppler and comparing where things are, fairly close alignment here to where we have it on Futurecast, though it has less of these being quite as intense as they are up north. But I mean, it's pretty close on where it depicts most things. So over the next few hours, again, these kind of moving east, southeast, still heavy close to Grenada. And again, this batch we were looking at a moment ago there, that still is fairly heavy through Amory as it goes into Alabama. This is not an evening where you need to stay up and worry with us overnight. Again, no tornado threat. I can't emphasize that enough, especially as long as you are a person who has kind of built up that armor. And when we say that, we mean we want to make sure we have multiple sources that we can rely on in a severe weather event if something were weird to happen and we need to be up and shelter in the whole 9 yards. We're not thinking that that is going to be an issue for tonight, but we do think that always you should probably have multiple of these different options down here. Weather Call, Mississippi Live Weather app, which you can get with those QR codes there, Code Red, or National Weather Service Weather Radio. If you have multiple of those, you will be in good shape. And I always talk about Weather Call because it's what I have for my family. It's what I mean, obviously we all have the app. Leo was one of the first ones to download the Mississippi Live Weather app. And so that is, again, a layer that works with us. But I think Weather Call, it's a phone call, it's a disruptor, and I think it has value because of that as well. So download that to stay ahead of any issues that we might have there. As we bring it back here and continue looking forward on Futurecast overnight, maybe some rumbles still, 4:35, 6 o'clock in the morning. Not a lot of those. If there ain't issues, Maggie will be tracking that starting at 6:30 a.m. on Mississippi Live Weather this morning, 6:37 and 7:30 a.m. She's live tomorrow morning with any updates on where those rain chances are. Temperatures, we're down into the low 60s and begin your Monday morning and upper 50s. And this is some drier air moving in. It's where we should be for this time of year. You can see that normal coming in 60 degrees, so it's spot on what we would typically expect. And mainly dry for your Monday. We don't go completely dry, but notice the arrows coming more out of the north and east. That's that drier air. That's what's pushing any meaningful low-level instability and fuel down south of us. So a couple of sprinkles possible through the day tomorrow. But again, any heavier thunderstorms are going to be down in the southern part of the state. You can see down there closer to New Orleans, down in the Gulf of Mexico, really, where they're strongest, again, down in South Mississippi. So high temperatures on your Monday expected to be in the mid-70s. It'll be less humid than it was today, so we're probably not talking about as much, again, the stickiness factor. 75 in Tunica, Clarksdale. Normal for this time of year, 81 degrees. We're going to be back in the 80s. Don't you worry. That dry air helps us to warm up as we go throughout the week as well. So partly cloudy skies going through around 9 p.m., 10 p.m. on your Monday evening and Monday night. All the rain chances south. And so with some drier air moving in, we'll get a little bit cooler by early morning Tuesday because of that, especially because we remove this veil of cloud cover just in time for the first part of the day. Low temperatures, not impossible to have a 40 out there, but we'll go in 50 at our coolest spot up there in Corinth, 51 degrees in New Albany, 55 Greenwood, 57 Belzona, 51 for Hamilton, Alabama, and a 54 for Starkville and Columbus. So Futurecast, keeping it mainly dry. High pressure still the story here, right overhead as we go into your Tuesday, midday. Another front back to the north and west that probably doesn't completely pass through here as any rain chances are going to be directed way to the north on this. Got to go kind of on the wide shot here to show that the overall jet stream is going to be way up here. And so that means that we are kind of in a zone where we're not going to see really much in the way of any sort of precipitation for the better part of the week. This shows some partly cloudy skies and maybe a rogue sprinkle south of Birmingham, but that's as close as moisture gets to us. So high temperatures on Tuesday, we're lower 80s. It's really pretty pleasant, all things considered. I mean, obviously 80s are warm, don't get me wrong, but it's not as humid as it was today or this weekend or last week. So that kind of helps us out there as well. Here's a look at that 7-day forecast. Again, early Monday, that's our rain chance. After that, it is drier, cooler for Tuesday morning, some upper 40s out there, low 80s by Tuesday afternoon. We're mid 80s by Wednesday, low 80s again for Thursday. I don't have any meaningful rainfall chances through the bulk of that 7-day forecast. And as you'll note, by next weekend, we could be pushing near the 90-degree point. Hey, Penny, that would be acceptable to go into and try to do a little bit of swimming if it's 90. The kids tried going swimming yesterday in 70-something, and claim they enjoyed it, and I think they're insane. But anyway, that's a different discussion. More Mama Justice Doppler radar, checking in on your reports and looking at this overall pattern shift as Mississippi Live weather continues here in 60 seconds.
I felt accomplished after I got my diploma. Made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
We can see the lowering. We're going to have a good shot at that as it approaches the Ryanzi area. Tornado warning now issued. We'll do a push alert behind the scenes for folks here up here in Alcorn County. Rotation on this thunderstorm increasing to the point back into Tippah County as well, where the National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning for your locations. Welcome back to Mississippi Live Weather at 6. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon alongside our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut behind the scenes. Again, looking at your reports, those from North Mississippi Storm Chasers. Not a lot coming in, thankfully. I'll bring up our chat here where you guys can, join in the conversation there. I appreciate everybody for watching us. New Albany, Wisconsin, apparently. Bruce, Amory, Macon, Solent, Boonville. Let's again talk here on the wide shot and then come right back in. On the wide shot there, Boonville. Hey, yeah, there are some thunderstorms back to the north and west, and these could move in later on tonight. Heavy rainfall, maybe some hail, maybe some lightning. Northern part of the area, that's what we're looking at with this. There is no tornado threat tonight, just to be completely clear on what we could be up against. And one of our heaviest thunderstorms is this one that I was in right at the beginning here, down toward around Louisville near Estes and Center Ridge. I think that's right near Lake Tiacata there. And double check. Yeah. Pretty close there. And so this is heavy rainfall and maybe some hail out of this, but that's pretty much it. And I honestly don't even know that we really have much in the way of hail. I'll use our True Shield hail swath to kind of check and see where the hail has been. It's clipped out a little bit behind it, but that biggest hail, we're now about an hour in the past up here closer to McCool on that storm. So again, going through a bit of a downswing there. Just like our thunderstorm there near Linville is as well. So it's going to track both of these storms. I'm going to track the Estes one first and then the Linville one second. And then we're going to check and see what Caleb's got on power outages and everything else that you've been sending in here in a moment. Again, 23 miles per hour show Vernon there, Vernon, Mississippi at 6:39. Fern Springs at 6:49 Handle, Golston about 7:10, 7:17 Scripps Mills, and Fairhill at 7:19. That's a few hailstones. That's a lot of heavy rainfall, but that's probably not severe thunderstorm criteria. And then this one that's kind of flirted with it from time to time here in DeKalb, we're looking at that for you at 6:42. Tracking that toward Carter's at 6:56, Townsend 6:59, Akron at 7:04, Electric Mills 7:12. And Porterville there at 7:18. Again, Doppler radar indicated hail maybe. I mean, we're at maybe possible on this. I just don't know that we're probably at hail. There might be a little rotation on it, but this is not going to be anything like could try to produce a tornado. We'll check our shot there from Macon, looking down into this. We had a pretty good look at that a minute ago from Macon, which is, of course, top of your screen there up in Noxubee County, looking on the wide shot there. And you can see how much it's moved just in the last couple minutes on me. So we'll pan this camera back to the left. Appreciate North Mississippi Storm Chasers, our partners on this camera network. The gray that you see there is the precipitation kind of on the north side. And then we're getting the darker, so that would be if it had any hail. I think luckily we're still if category. And that does not look as organized as it did a minute ago. You could kind of see the ingest area, for lack of a better way to put it, where things are going up and into the thunderstorm. Not showing that as well as of the latest scans there. So I'm certainly not showing as well on that camera shot either. So some good signs there. Our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut has been kind of tracking the power outages that you have been looking at here. And Caleb, based on what you were seeing as of 6:22, how are things looking?
Well, things are looking good, Matt. I mean, coming back to talk about these power outages, we're basically talking about the same power outages I came here with the last update, which is a good thing because that means we're not talking about any more that are occurring. We can still clearly tell where those stronger storms already moved on through our area. We were talking about the severe thunderstorm warnings, that hail that continued to drop, those higher wind gusts. Well, those were responsible for our power outages here. You can see the 3 counties primarily affected that we've been talking about a lot throughout this update and throughout the 6 o'clock show. But for those out there in Carroll County, still around 161. I'm pretty sure that was the exact same count we had earlier. And then we're back towards Montgomery, still around 70, and then Atala around 250. So these are all related to Entergy, which I pull up this. That way y'all can kind of see that. You can see these dash lines showcasing the different counties. So you can see Atala County down here, kind of where those southern power outages are. Out here in Carroll County, starting to expand closer towards Baden, still seeing some out there. And even into, still zoomed in, let's see, Choctaw's over there, into Montgomery County. There we go. And so you can kind of see all the different shapes, but I mean, thankfully these power outages, they're not continuing to spread. So definitely a good sign as these storms kind of move out of that area.
Go closer to McCool there, which is in the far right-hand part of the screen there.
Yep.
South of French Camp. That's where we had some of that big hail, so it does look like it probably came with a little bit of strong wind, knocked down maybe a few power poles that direction there. You can kind of see where they put I'm assuming where they put the little pink icons there is where the break is, and then everybody up line from that has some issues.
Yep. No, you can definitely see where those streets kind of got affected. I think the pink ones are 1 to 50 customers. So anyone along that street definitely out of power at this moment outside the McCool region.
Okay, appreciate that. That's our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut, in our downtown Tupelo studios. Appreciate him. Again, hard work at tracking these storms as we've gone throughout the day. Current time is 6:24. Let's give you kind of an overview on the storms, and we're going to look beyond at what's possible. One of the ways to do that most easily is using our peak threats. We don't show this all the time, but I think maybe we probably show it less often than we should. Looking at our 3 kind of storms here, there's more 2 storms that are the strongest. I show some light purples to maybe medium purples on here. Purple means large hail would be the peak impact. The idea on this is this will show you for any specific spot. Fair Hill, it says light rainfall is the most significant thing you'll see. Louisville, it says that on really Midtown up north. But it gives you what is the kind of worst case scenario. And so the worst case scenario in that storm south of Louisville would be up to inch and a half size hail. Same with that one over 397 near Linville. Now, I'll be honest, I think it's highly unlikely we're seeing that, but that's kind of your worst case scenario. The reality is it's probably more like some hail, and then the wind gusts probably 35, 45 miles per hour, and then really, really heavy rainfall, a lot of lightning. And so that could still be disruptive. I do see that storm near Ethel does look a little bit stronger in the last couple minutes, but I think all of these remain below severe limits. So we'll get you storm tracks on all 3 of these. The storm near Ethel toward the southeast, they've been moving about 20 to 25 miles per hour. Giving you that to Providence, we're looking at 640. East Macedonia at 652, Val at 701, 702 Hines, Liberty at 719, and 720 for Plattsburgh. So we clear all those off. We'll track the storm there south of Louisville. Again, that'll probably track along 397, so we're going 21 miles per hour. Vernon, Mississippi at 646, 656 there at the Handle community, Ferns Springs at 657, and Golston at 719. I think I've said Golston forever. I apologize for folks that live near there. And then our other storm here that's south of I say Scripps Mill every time as well. Sipes Mill? Ooh, I might actually have to. I apologize. I'm now a little more self-aware than I probably should be. Apparently, I'm pronouncing some of these wrong. I apologize for that. DeKalb, we're looking at that for you at 650. Carter's 704. Townsend 706. Akron 711. Electric Mills 719, and Porterville at 723. Outside of those 3 storms, as we go back wide, you will notice that there's really nothing else there that kind of catches our attention. So we're not going to keep this broadcast going all night long just for run-of-the-mill thunderstorms. But let's give you kind of an overview at what happens from here going forward using something we call the crossover. It's an exclusive to us here on Mississippi Live. It looks for the crossover of 3 important things. Upper-level winds, what we usually call the jet stream. Lower-level winds, what we sometimes call the low-level jet. And fuel. Where all 3 of these things cross over, we have the potential for severe weather, and especially high-end severe weather. So this is the crossover, something you'll see only here on Mississippi Live. And so looking at this, our pattern goes a lot more northwest flow. We don't have any of the lower level winds, and it shoves all the moisture on out of here. So as we go through Tuesday and Wednesday, the overall pattern is not one that's going to be really developmental. In fact, on kind of the wide shot here, we've got a lot going on, but what I want to highlight is, I think I use red to show this because red doesn't show up on this graphic, is how you kind of have this omega sort of shape there, this sort of hill shape. We call this an omega block. And so a blocking pattern like this moves very, very slowly day to day. And so it's not until maybe Wednesday that we start to see anything that even kind of starts to shift a little bit. And I'll say this is a little more progressive than it was on Friday. So I should be clear on that. And this does have a little bit of fuel showing up on here in the European. So that means we might not be exactly zero on our rain chances there, but we're pretty limited, certainly in comparison on severe weather for locations back on the plains where we have a lot more fuel a lot farther north. This looks a lot like a shift toward, again, a more stormy pattern for them. While we do have some instability in fuel back as we go toward Friday, the upper level winds are not at all where they should be. I would say, kind of looking at this, I'm interested to see what European precipitation shows on this, Caleb, here in a minute. So if you can, let's talk through whether or not that has some issues on there where we have some more rain chances there than what this is depicting, because that's a lot of fuel out there for zeros on the rain chances. So we'll kind of pull that up here in a second. Some of the other parts of the pattern aren't exactly right, but when we have this time of year, a decent amount of fuel sitting around, sometimes we have some chances, and we have that in the next week. But what I don't have on any of these days is I don't have the jet stream down here in a really meaningful way where we're looking at tornadoes and stuff like that. So the pattern could have some storms from time to time. I mean, I'm looking all the way, as you note there at the top, to basically the end of the month. And there are some storm chances there, but what I don't see are a lot of super organized, severe weather sort of chances. So this pattern goes summer-like in a big way, in a big hurry for a number of days. So I'll take that back out, and that'll come back to today. And if you'll give me a second, I'm going to bring Caleb in here in a moment. We'll kind of talk through this. Now, Caleb knows I'm a apologist for the European model. So let's kind of talk through here, and let's see if I put some pause points in here when I built it. I did not. I need to do that.
I will say
Anyway,
one of the things, I'm glad you pointed out Tuesday, one of the things in the National Weather Service discussion, they were mentioning that shortwave kind of frontal boundary that will move through Tuesday night. But they were saying because of how dry we are at the surface and for how long, they're just really not that confident on it, making it the precipitation all the way to the surface. So rain chances are still very limited for your Tuesday. But I mean, if there were a day throughout the week where we could see maybe a few sprinkles overnight, again, not meaningful. I mean, there is a possibility, but again, just kind of very limited throughout your Tuesday night.
And this shows Wednesday, some chances overhead too. You know, on here, what I depict when I show rainfall is I'm showing rainfall rate. And so even where it has the rainfall rate showing up, it's pretty light variety stuff. That's probably not thunderstorms there. Looking toward Friday, you know, you have another front kind of comes toward us. This doesn't have it necessarily building overhead with maybe some spotty stuff about a week from now. And then you go beyond that and the chances get a lot more. Well, it's that whole butterfly effect by that point in time. This time of year, it gets very difficult to kind of nail things out. But week after next, a little more fuel around, a little more thunderstorm chances there, a possibility. So, yeah, pretty dry for the next week, that's for sure. Not completely zero, but pretty dry.
Oh, yeah, very dry and starting to warm back up as well. So that summertime kind of weather pattern, we're finally getting back towards a calmer, much-needed weather pattern here in North Mississippi.
Absolutely. Our meteorologist, Caleb Bettelblut, again, continuing to...
I don't think he meant to bring it back to me. I think he's coming back. I'm pretty sure he's about to come back, but if not, there we go.
I hit the wrong chat button. I hit your chat button, not my chat button. Which
no, you're
fine.
good.
Yeah, you're doing a great job out there. Okay, we'll go back over, and then I think we'll probably wrap things up here in a minute. Again, appreciate y'all from watching us in the Flatwoods there, Burnsville, Boonesville, Soligent, all of you in Macon there as well. And appreciate all of our sponsors like Lee's Storm Shelters there for sponsoring our storm shelter list on our website there. We appreciate them for doing that. And Little's Jewelers, who've been a big proponent of what we're doing, and just so many other folks out there as well. As we look here on Mama Justice Doppler radar, again, one of the groups, Mama Justice, helping us to track these storms kind of moving from northwest to southeast. So from some of those spots we're talking about, such as, Iuka and Burnsville and Fulton and Boonville and Corinth and say Saltillo and Tupelo, the heaviest of this is to the south. We will have some thunderstorms that come in tonight. It's not impossible that these could have some hailstones with them. I am hesitant to put a track on these because these all could just very easily fall apart before then. I mean, look, for example, I want to point out, this is a 1 hour loop up here in northern Benton County. Look how that storm basically doesn't move over the last hour. So if I put a storm track on this, these decent chance these just don't move. I think they probably kick out additional storms ahead, but there's just not a ton of movement on this. These are very slow. So I'm going to track that back there. I'm going to say, I'm overdoing it at 18 miles an hour. But I want to give you a rough earliest possible time. Does that sound? Don't hold me to this times. Shouldn't put these on here. I would have argued at the television station with the consultant on whether or not we put a track on something like this because it's highly unlikely to be accurate. But yeah, here we go. So this shows, if nothing else changes with this, and these don't pick up any speed, it could be as late as maybe even 9 p.m. before it gets there, 9:30 or so before it gets to Boonville and Iuka and Burnsville about 9:15. So we still have some time there, about 8:20 there for folks up in the Corinth area. This could pick up a little bit of speed, and those could go a little faster for you. So trying to answer that question, not impossible, but no tornadoes out there for those locations or anybody else as far as that's concerned. Our heaviest storms have been down here. I'll give you like one more over on these for our Max South viewers in particular down here at Decatur to Newton. Checking our discussion with the National Weather Service. Again, those hail reports from earlier, the most recent thing that they have been talking about and watching. Looking at our True Shield hail threat from up in Monroe County, a little too high up there on some of these down south. We'll change it down to the one out of Jackson. Maybe a little bit of hail starting to fall out of these. They've gotten going the last little bit here. Not a ton at this moment. Oops, and I hit the wrong button. Let's bring it back in. Apologize for that. Let's come back in. I was meaning to change my radar site. My component of what was shown there. And so again, coming south here. Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit of hail out of that batch there. Those are moving more east as opposed to southeast like some. In fact, they're splitting storms, which is always interesting. I'm going to track that about 17 miles per hour, give you some times there if that kind of holds that way, even though this back one there is kind of splitting northward. All right, that one could make its way again south there of Philadelphia. So watch that for y'all there in Leake County. And then our DeKalb storm again weakening. So I think probably best way to look at this is using the peak threats. And it does look as though that's probably, again, some spotty hail, but I think all these are probably a little below severe limits. Our next live broadcast is coming up here. If nothing changes at 9 p.m., if we have severe thunderstorm warnings, Caleb will be back here. We'll be tracking things in the Room to Room Weather Center related to that. But 9 o'clock, he'll be looking through your work week forecast, an updated look at some of those rain chances by the middle part of the week. And we appreciate, everybody for sending in those pictures. If you do have large hail pictures to share with us, best way to do that is using the Mississippi Live weather app, free and available for all of those various different devices. You can send in those pictures, and we certainly appreciate that. We will see you guys, though, coming up as we're going to shut down this live stream here. We're going to see you guys coming up at 9 and 10 o'clock. Y'all have a good one.
March 24th, 2023 was a normal Friday. We knew the weather was not good, but we needed to take shelter, and we didn't have shelter. My husband and almost 2-year-old daughter, Ethan and Riley, they did lose their lives in the storm. We're still recovering from it. We'll always be recovering from it. Matt Lawpon cares about the community. He's not just there to collect a paycheck. I feel like Matt Lawpon has proven himself trustworthy.